Chapter 674. Their lips parted after a long while. Why did you suddenly take the initiative to kiss me? Ning Rongrong's face was a little red. She had been kissed for too long, and she was holding her breath. She looked at Lu Yuan with a confused look on her face. This was the first time that Lu Yuan had taken the initiative to kiss her. "Can't I kiss you?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile when he saw Ning Rongrong's confused look. "Of course you can. I'm more than happy that you kissed me. I'm just a little surprised," Ning Rongrong hurriedly said. "What's there to be surprised about? You're my woman now. Isn't it normal for me to kiss you? Not only will I kiss you today, but I'll kiss you tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and for the rest of my life," Lu Yuan said with a smile as he pecked Ning Rongrong's cherry lips again. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong's pretty face couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. She hugged Lu Yuan's arm even tighter. "Rongrong, you're really my little lucky star," Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Ning Rongrong, who was just inches away from him. Ning Rongrong was a little confused when she heard that. She didn't understand why Lu Yuan would say that. "Look, I didn't just kill a soul Douluo when I came out with you today. Not only did I get a soul bone, but I also leveled up. I'm already rank 60 now. Look, aren't you my little lucky star?" Lu Yuan said gently. Ning Rongrong smiled when she heard that. Lu Yuan's words made sense. The haze in Ning Rongrong's heart disappeared completely when she smiled. The best way to get rid of her fear and sadness was to make her happy. Happiness was the best medicine to get rid of all her pain and suffering. To Ning Rongrong, the person who could make her the happiest was undoubtedly Lu Yuan. That was why he purposely kissed her and made her laugh. Everything he did was to make her forget the bloody scene from not too long ago. "Rongrong, I have a gift for you. Which one do you like?" As Lu Yuan spoke, he waved his hand slightly. A large pile of soul bones appeared on the coffee table beside the sofa. Immediately, various colored lights shone, and rich energy fluctuations filled the entire room. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan chuckled softly and said, "Pick whichever piece you like." So many soul bones." Ning Rongrong's eyes widened in shock when she saw the many soul bones on the coffee table. It was true that the Seven Treasures glazed sect was rich, but their soul bone reserves were far inferior to Lu Yuan's. Lu Yuan had only taken out 10,000-year soul bones. As for 1,000-year soul bones, Lu Yuan wouldn't take them out at all. Was that thing worthy of his woman? At this moment, there were 5 pieces of Tang Hao's soul bones, the Blood Emperor's skull and right arm bone, Shenyan's illusory realm skull, an evil soul master's 10,000-year left arm bone, and the Umbra Demon Scorpion's 10,000-year right leg bone. In addition to the remaining 2,000-year soul bones in his astral ring, Lu Yuan still had 12 soul bones. Originally, he had 13 soul bones. However, when he fought the Weevil Academy, he used an 8,000-year left arm bone as compensation for Huyen Zhun. Therefore, the total number of soul bones didn't change. Looking at Lu Yuan, Ning Rongrong asked doubtfully, "Abuchi, where did you get so many soul bones? Also, why didn't you absorb them yourself? I saw that 3 of them were especially high quality. They must be at least 50,000-year soul bones. That's because, other than the external soul bone, the rest of my soul bones are at least 100,000-year soul bones. I'm not interested in these soul bones," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Ah." Hearing Lu Yuan's reply, Ning Rongrong opened her mouth wide. Is this what a human is saying? She expressed that she had been dealt a blow. A 10,000-year soul bone was a very precious treasure even to the 7 Treasures glazed sect. However, Lu Yuan didn't care about it. It was really hurtful. "Choose one, Rongrong," Lu Yuan said softly. "I don't know which one to choose." Looking at the few soul bones below, Ning Rongrong's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. Sometimes, it was very painful to have too many choices. The most suitable soul bones for you are undoubtedly the 3 skulls. Next is the torso bone. The other soul bones have their own attributes, and aren't very suitable for you. The skulls can strengthen your spiritual power, and are very beneficial to you. The torso bone can strengthen your physique and defense, and increase your ability to protect yourself. Choose one of these 2 soul bones first." I'll give you the other one after the tournament ends, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Then I'll choose the skulls first. Which one is suitable for me? Ning Rongrong asked. If it's the skulls, these 3 skulls are 30,000 years old, 20,000 years old, and 15,000 years old respectively. The most suitable one for you is undoubtedly the one with the lowest age. Although it's the lowest age, it's mainly illusory, and has a complementary effect with your 9 treasures glazed pagoda martial soul, Lu Yuan said. Then I'll choose this one. After hearing Lu Yuan's analysis, Ning Rongrong immediately said. She believed in Lu Yuan's words. Since he said that this soul bone was suitable for her, then this soul bone was definitely the most suitable for her. Okay, then you can absorb it first. I'll protect you, Lu Yuan said. Okay. Ning Rongrong nodded her little head. After that, she picked up the illusory skull that she had obtained from Shenyan. Seeing this, Lu Yuan waved his hand gently, and the remaining 9 soul bones were all kept. Ning Rongrong held the illusory skull and looked at Lu Yuan with a strange look in her eyes. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me if you're not absorbing the soul bone? Lu Yuan asked. Ning Rongrong smiled slightly. Her smile was very sweet. She moved closer to Lu Yuan, and their eyes met. They could feel each other's aura. Abuchi, it wasn't easy for us to come out, and we've even gotten a room. Why don't we do that last thing? Ning Rongrong blinked her eyes. There was an inexplicable glow in her eyes. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He thought that this girl was going to say something else. He didn't expect it to be something like this. He flicked Ning Rongrong's finger. She was in so much pain that she screamed on the spot. Her sapphire-like eyes blinked, and they were filled with grievance. Abuchi, why did you hit me? You're only 14 years old. You're still young. Zhu Qing and I can't do anything about it, but for you, I won't touch you before you're 16. Don't try to seduce me, it's useless. Be good and wait for another 2 years. I'm thinking about your health, Lu Yuan said in a low voice. But I don't want to wait for another 2 years. 2 years is too long. Furthermore, seduction won't work. At most, I'll drug you again. Let's see if you can touch me then. Ning Rongrong spoke loudly at first. Then, her voice gradually became softer. In the end, she was almost muttering to herself. Chapter 675. What did you say? Although Ning Rongrong's voice was soft, Lu Yuan's spiritual sense was extremely sensitive. He had already heard Ning Rongrong's muttering clearly. He glared, and an indescribable pressure enveloped Ning Rongrong. No, I didn't say anything. Seeing Lu Yuan's stern eyes, Ning Rongrong suddenly felt a little scared. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, You still want to drug me, huh? 2 fingers pinched Ning Rongrong's chin. Lu Yuan looked at her beautiful oval face, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. His face was very close, and the heat of his words directly hit Ning Rongrong's face. No, I didn't. Ning Rongrong hurriedly denied. Could it be that I heard wrongly? Didn't you, Miss Ning, just say that you want to drug me again? Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. I was just joking. I won't drug you again. Ning Rongrong explained. Just joking? Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said. Yes, I was just joking. Hearing Lu Yuan's tone seemed to have softened, Ning Rongrong immediately responded. Can this kind of thing be said for fun? Lu Yuan's tone suddenly became stern, scaring Ning Rongrong. Obediently stick up your butt and accept the punishment. I'll let you remember. Lu Yuan said lightly. Ah. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong's face turned bitter. She just wanted to slap herself. Who told you to speak without thinking? You dare to say anything. However, under Lu Yuan's scrutinizing gaze, she slowly lay on Lu Yuan's thigh and slightly raised her tender butt. Abuchi, be gentle. Ning Rongrong gently bit her red lips, turned to look at Lu Yuan, and said softly. I will, don't worry. With that, Lu Yuan raised his hand and slapped down like a cattail leaf fan. Hiss. Feeling Lu Yuan's hand caressing her butt, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. These few slaps were really painful. Lu Yuan did not hit her much. Although it was called a punishment, it was actually just 3 spanks on her buttocks. However, Ning Rongrong had been spoiled since childhood and had never suffered much. Just 3 hits were enough to make her feel unbearable pain. Do you feel pain now? Lu Yuan asked. Ning Rongrong nodded. Do you still dare to drug me in the future? I don't dare, I don't dare. Ning Rongrong shook her head and said. You're asking for it. Have you forgotten what happened last time? Zhu Qing gave you a slap on the spot. I feel sorry for you, but she won't feel sorry for you. When the time comes, you'll really suffer a lot. Moreover, it was Zhu Qing and I who suppressed the matter of you drugging me. Otherwise, if my other 3 girlfriends knew about it, you would really suffer. Each of them is fiercer than the other, especially my first girlfriend, Cher. Sometimes I have to listen to her. When the time comes, if she really wants to teach you a lesson, I won't be able to help. Lu Yuan said half-truthfully. Ah. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but exclaim. Among Lu Yuan's women, there was actually someone that he was afraid of. This made Ning Rongrong a little surprised. With Lu Yuan's strong personality, there were times when he would listen to others. Rongrong, your strengths are that you are lively and have a personality. However, having a personality doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. You can act coquettishly with me, and even occasionally tease me, but don't do things like drugging me in the future. If you continue to mess around, I won't raise you up high like last time and put you down lightly. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan said seriously. Ning Rongrong grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and said sincerely, I know, I won't do these things again. I really just said it casually just now. I didn't mean it that way. You have to believe me, Abuchi. Yes, I believe you. You're actually doing well now. Just keep it up. Lu Yuan smiled and placed his palm on Ning Rongrong's delicate butt. White light circulated and removed the pain for her. You broke through? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing had a look of surprise on her face. He only went out for a trip, and Lu Yuan broke through to rank 60 again? Yes, I broke through after defeating a contra Douluo. That guy was the teacher in charge of the Imperial Star Luo Academy. He saw that I crippled Davis, so he came to find trouble with me. I killed him on the spot. Lu Yuan chuckled softly. Well, you're now rank 60. Do you plan to wait like this, or do you plan to find a suitable soul ring first? But time is tight, so I'm afraid you won't be able to find a suitable one. Zhu Zhuqing didn't care about Lu Yuan saying that he killed a contra Douluo. She wasn't surprised at all. She knew better than anyone else about Lu Yuan's strength. A contra Douluo was no match for him at all. She was more concerned about Lu Yuan's soul ring. There's a suitable one. I'm currently in the middle of the 9 holy sword trials, so when I break through the bottleneck, I'll get a god-bestowed soul ring. I just have to go back to the angel's secret realm to absorb it. According to the current time, I should be able to come back before the finals. Lu Yuan said. Then what about the top 3 competition? Do you want me to lead the team? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Then I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you. I'll get the Martial Soul Palace to make arrangements so that you won't meet Tang-san and Senior Sister. As for the other teams, they won't be a threat to you. But I think you won't meet them even if I don't make arrangements. According to the unwritten rules, the strong teams that have the strength to win the championship won't meet in advance. So you don't have to worry too much about the top 3 competition, Lu Yuan said softly. Okay. Zhu Zhuqing nodded when she heard this. Then, she asked, when are you going to set off? Let's go now. The earlier we go, the earlier we can come back, Lu Yuan said. It's almost dark now. Why don't we go tomorrow? There's no rush at this time. Zhu Zhuqing's tone changed as she said this. And what? Lu Yuan had a curious look on his face. And you have to make up for what I didn't do last night. Zhu Zhuqing looked into Lu Yuan's eyes and said seriously. What happened last night? Lu Yuan was stunned at first. Then, he reacted instantly. He couldn't help but smile and asked, what if Rong comes again tonight? Don't forget, she didn't even take her pillow with her. Chimph, I don't care about her. Anyway, you're not allowed to let her in tonight. Tonight, you can only be mine. Zhu Zhuqing took a step forward. Her cold eyes had a hint of threatening aura. All right then. Since you've said so, I can't go against your wishes, can I? Lu Yuan lifted Zhu Zhuqing's chin and laughed softly. Then I'll wait and see your performance tonight. Little kitty, I hope you're better than senior sister and the others. As he said this, a strange smile flashed across Lu Yuan's face. Chapter 676. The next day, at the first glimmer of dawn, Lu Yuan had already climbed out of bed. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who was lazily lying on the bed and sleeping soundly, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but evoke a smile. He really couldn't tell that Zhu Zhuqing was the youngest, but her ability was the strongest. She was really much more powerful than Chihiro Snow and Hulena. Although she was still not his opponent, she could hold her own for a while. Her appearance was as cold as ice, but her heart was as hot as fire. This was really the best portrayal of Zhu Zhuqing. After putting on his clothes and washing up, Lu Yuan tiptoed out of the room. Then, he left the Sacred Light Hotel and directly began to rush in the direction of the Pope's palace. Lu Yuan's feet used the dragon swimming steps and swept through the air like a golden light. In a short while, he passed through many obstacles and entered the outer palace of the Pope's palace. After entering, Lu Yuan's footsteps didn't stop and directly rushed to the island in the middle of the lake. Bibidon's figure stood on the pavilion in the middle of the lake. She always woke up very early. Every morning, standing on the pavilion in the middle of the lake and looking at the scenery of the lake had become a habit of hers. Suddenly, a golden light flew over from afar. Bibidon narrowed her eyes and a moment later, a smile appeared on her charming face. The newcomer was Lu Yuan. With the sound of a dragon's roar, Lu Yuan quickly appeared on the pavilion in the middle of the lake like a flowing light. The golden light dissipated and Lu Yuan's figure was revealed. He stopped 1 meter in front of Bibidon. Lu Yuan's figure sprinted at high speed before coming to an abrupt stop. The strong wind blew Lu Yuan's hair and clothes back, adding an air of elegance to him. Looking at Bibidon in front of him, who was as beautiful as the morning glow, Lu Yuan couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. "Teacher," Lu Yuan gently called out, his gentle voice sounding. "Why have you come to my place so early?" Looking at Lu Yuan in front of her, Bibidon slightly smiled and asked softly. "Of course I want to see my beautiful and gentle teacher." Lu Yuan blinked his eyes and said with a smile. "You're so talkative." Bibidon pouted playfully. Looking at the aura on Lu Yuan's body that had yet to fade, her beautiful face couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. "You broke through? I knew I couldn't hide it from you, teacher." "I just broke through yesterday," Lu Yuan said softly. "You've reached rank 60. So you're going to the angel temple to get a soul ring bestowed by the gods, right?" Bibidon said indifferently. "Teacher, can you not be so smart?" Lu Yuan shrugged and said helplessly. Bibidon was Bibidon. As soon as he saw that his aura had broken through, he immediately knew why he had come. Bibidon rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and chuckled softly. "With your bad intentions, if teacher isn't smart, wouldn't he be fooled by you? When have I ever lied to you, teacher? Don't wrongly accuse a good person." Lu Yuan took 2 steps forward and walked in front of Bibidon. At this moment, the distance between the two was less than a foot. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was half a head taller than himself, Bibidon couldn't help but sigh softly in his heart. This disciple of his had really grown up. Although he was only 14 years old, he already looked no different from a 20-year-old youth. Sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a high-nose bridge, a sharp and delicate face, thin lips, and a pair of eyes that emitted an indescribable brilliance. This disciple of his could be said to be extremely good. The more one looked at him, the more one would be entranced. No wonder Cher, Nana, and the others were all deeply in love, unable to extricate themselves. Seeing Bibidon sizing him up, Lu Yuan faintly smiled, winked at Bibidon, and said, "Teacher is sizing up this disciple like this. Do you think this disciple is very handsome?" Whoosh! Bibidon's lily-white hand suddenly hit empty air. In front of her, Lu Yuan had already taken a step back. You even dare to tease your teacher, your courage is really fat. Bibidon glared at Lu Yuan, her beautiful eyes carrying a trace of rebuke. He, who told teacher to be so beautiful and so young? This disciple couldn't help it. Lu Yuan laughed. Speak, what did you come to find me for? Regarding this disciple of Lu Yuan, Bibidon also couldn't do anything to him. He couldn't bear to hit him, but if he didn't hit him, this smelly brat liked to tease him for no reason. However, in his heart, he wasn't angry. It was really strange. Even Bibidon somewhat couldn't figure out what kind of state of mind he was in right now. Hehe, it's nothing big. I just want to eat breakfast here. Lu Yuan said with a smile. That's all? Bibidon glanced at Lu Yuan and asked. I also want to ask teacher to help me investigate some things. Lu Yuan said with a smile. I knew you had something to say. Speak, what is it? Bibidon asked. Lu Yuan smiled and told him everything that had happened. So that's how it is. If this matter is true, it's a good thing for our martial soul palace. Bibidon raised her eyebrows and said softly. Indeed, that's why I need teacher to investigate. It's best if there's some evidence. Lu Yuan said. I understand. I'll leave this matter to teacher. Since this matter has happened, it can't be covered up. The local martial soul palace must have a record of it. It's still possible to find some evidence. Bibidon said seriously. Teacher, how long do you think it will take? Can it be ready before the finals? Lu Yuan asked. Time isn't a problem. Didn't you destroy the stage below? Then let them cultivate for a few more days. When they're almost ready, we can start the competition. Bibidon said indifferently. Awesome, teacher is indeed teacher. You have a way of thinking. It just so happens that I'm trying to break through to 100,000-year soul ring this time. If there's enough time, I can try to endure a higher number of years. Lu Yuan said. Absorb as much as you want. Your cultivation is the most important issue. The competition will wait until you come out of seclusion. Bibidon turned around and sat down on the stone bench and said softly. What if the other participating teams can't wait and have any objections? Lu Yuan asked softly. I'm the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace. Who dares to object to my orders? Bibidon said in a calm voice, as if she was talking about something ordinary. However, there was an unquestionable meaning in her words that made people feel that it was a matter of course. Bibidon's domineering aura was not obvious, but it was vividly reflected in her calm words. Just like the sentence in the original work, does the Seven Treasures glazed sect want to become enemies with the Martial Soul Palace? Ning Fengji didn't even dare to fart after hearing this sentence. As the most capable female pope in the history of the Martial Soul Palace, Bibidon's prestige was extraordinary. Of course, to Lu Yuan, it was useless. He wasn't afraid of Bibidon's prestige at all. He was still acting like a clown. Teacher is indeed domineering. But teacher, aren't you going to serve breakfast? I'm a little hungry. Lu Yuan touched his stomach and said softly. As soon as he said this, the imposing aura that Bibi Dong had gathered instantly dissipated without a trace. Looking at Lu Yuan, Bibi Dong's eyes were filled with helplessness. Chapter 677. Lu Yuan finished the last mouthful of porridge in the bowl, picked up a handkerchief to wipe his mouth, and said softly, Teacher, I'm done. Since you're done, hurry up and go, it's about time. Bibidon put down the chopsticks in her hand, and said softly, Hehe, I'm not in a hurry now. Since teacher said that the competition will start after I come out, then why should I be in a hurry? I want to sit for a while and enjoy the way teacher eats. I have to say, teacher is beautiful, even when eating, you're so beautiful. Lu Yuan laughed mischievously, his eyes looking straight at Bibidon. Well, don't play around, go early. When you come out, come to teacher, and I'll tell you the results of the investigation. Bibidon said in a serious voice. Okay, I know, then I'll go first teacher. Bibi Dong's tone was very formal, and Lu Yuan's expression immediately became serious. He nodded and said softly, That's right. Go. Bibidon softly replied. Lu Yuan slightly nodded, the golden dragon's shadow spread out under his feet, and his whole person directly turned into a golden light, disappearing from the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Smelly brat, no respect for your elders, you dare to say anything. Looking at the flash of golden light, Bibidon lightly scolded, but her beautiful face couldn't help but carry a shallow smile. She picked up the chopsticks, and continued to eat breakfast. Angel Temple. Lu Yuan's figure appeared. In front of the huge angel statue, Sendriu's figure stood quietly. He faced the angel statue, with his hands slightly behind his back. You're here. Lu Yuan's figure just appeared, when Sendriu's voice sounded. Yes, I'm here. Lu Yuan nodded, and walked in the direction of Sendriu. Since you're here, come in with me. It's only been a few days, but Cher misses you so much. Sendriu said softly, with a hint of confusion in his voice. It was as if he was upset that his little princess, the apple of his eye that he had raised since she was young, was so attached to another man. Although he approved of this kid, he was also very much in favor of the two of them being together. But this didn't mean that Sendriu wasn't jealous. After all, she was the precious cabbage that he had watched grow up. Lu Yuan naturally didn't care about Sendriu's tone. When he heard Sendriu say that Chihiro Snow missed him, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. Let's go. Sendriu's hand seals changed, and a golden vortex appeared in the middle of the angel statue. Sendriu's figure flashed, and he directly disappeared into it. Lu Yuan followed closely behind and stepped into the vortex. 2 rays of light flashed through the air and directly reached the 9 steps celestial stairway. It was Sendriu and Lu Yuan. At the same time, Chihiro Snow, who was cultivating with his eyes closed on the 8th step, suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw Lu Yuan below, a trace of excitement flashed through his watery golden eyes. His figure flashed, and he directly landed in front of Lu Yuan from the 8th step. Abuchi, why are you here? The competition shouldn't be over yet. Chihiro Snow's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, and he asked softly. My soul power has broken through to rank 60, so I came here to get my 6th soul ring. Looking at Chihiro Snow's delicate face, Lu Yuan said with a smile. You broke through to rank 60 so quickly? Hearing that Lu Yuan had broken through to rank 60, Chihiro Snow's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. It had only been a month since Abuchi's last breakthrough. This breakthrough speed was a little too fast. Moreover, Abuchi was only 14 years old this year, and he had already reached rank 60. After absorbing the soul ring, he would be a soul emperor. A 14-year-old soul emperor, this was unheard of in the entire continent. Abuchi's talent was really too terrifying. I had just broken through to Soul King when I was 15 years old. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but feel a little disheartened. He was already a genius that was hard to come by in 100 years, but this guy in front of him was really abnormal. His speed of improvement was completely unreasonable, and his foundation was so stable. But no matter how abnormal he was still one of his people. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow felt a little happy in his heart. Seeing Chihiro Snow's surprised look, Lu Yuan smiled slightly, pulled Chihiro Snow's hand, and gently squeezed it. Cough cough. Seeing Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow being close under his nose, Sendriu couldn't help but cough. With a wave of his hand, a golden ball of light appeared in his hand. This is a soul ring bestowed by God. You can obtain a soul ring that is most suitable for you. As long as you can bear it, you can even obtain a 100,000-year soul ring. But you have to be careful. Don't just focus on increasing the age of the soul ring and act recklessly. You have to pay attention to the limit of your endurance, understand? Handing the golden ball of light to Lu Yuan, Sendriu said in a serious voice. Got it. Thank you, grandfather. After accepting the ball of light, Lu Yuan nodded and said. Then, you take your time to absorb it. I'll take my leave first. Qian Dao Liu nodded. His body flashed and disappeared in an instant. Abuchi, you absorb it first. I'll protect you. Chihiro Snow smiled and said. Ian, then I'll leave it to you, Cher. Lu Yuan responded. He found a clean place and sat down cross-legged. His body shone with a bright golden light, and a dragon's roar resounded. The golden dragon martial soul suddenly appeared behind Lu Yuan. Its huge dragon wings flapped slightly, and a strong dragon's aura instantly filled the air. At the same time, purple, black, and red soul rings appeared under Lu Yuan's body. Opening his palm slightly, the golden ball of light slowly rose and floated above Lu Yuan's head, and began to emit waves of energy. At the same time, Lu Yuan closed his eyes, and the soul power of the clear qi scripture in his body began to circulate rapidly. Once the soul power of the clear qi scripture was circulated, the absorption of the soul ring officially began. As the absorption of the soul ring began, the golden ball of light slowly cracked and turned into a ring of light. At the same time, rich energy began to pour into Lu Yuan's body from the ring of light. This wave of energy was actually just a test. As long as Lu Yuan could withstand it, the age of the soul ring would slowly increase. In the end, it could even reach the height of 100,000 years. Faced with this wave of energy, Lu Yuan naturally didn't reject it. He completely opened his arms and allowed the energy of the God-bestowed soul ring to pour into him. In just an instant, the color of the God-bestowed soul ring above Lu Yuan's head rapidly changed. White, yellow, purple, black. Almost in the blink of an eye, the color of the God-bestowed soul ring turned black. At the same time, the energy that was poured into the God-bestowed soul ring became even more vigorous and domineering. The pressure that Lu Yuan was enduring also slowly increased. However, a 10,000-year soul ring was nothing to the current Lu Yuan. As time passed, the black color above Lu Yuan's head became deeper. In the end, a dazzling red color appeared in the deep black color. Chapter 678. There was a tinge of red in the black, which would only appear when a soul beast reached 80,000 years of age. In other words, in less than a minute, the strength of Lu Yuan's soul ring had increased from a 10-year soul ring to an 80,000-year soul ring. This speed was simply astonishing. One had to know that even a rank 90 soul Douluo could theoretically withstand a 100,000-year soul ring. However, it was absolutely impossible for him to increase the strength of a God-bestowed soul ring from a 10-year soul ring to an 80,000-year soul ring in such a short period of time. This instantaneous increase in strength had completely exceeded his tolerance range. Under normal circumstances, the age of a God-bestowed soul ring would increase bit by bit, unlike Lu Yuan's huge jump. This wasn't something that an ordinary soul master could do. Abuchi, don't mess around. Chihiro Snow clenched her fists as she watched Lu Yuan's soul ring rapidly changing colors. Lu Yuan's momentum was too fierce, and she was a little shocked. She was really afraid that Lu Yuan's body wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure and would be injured. Therefore, she was very worried. However, Lu Yuan was currently absorbing the soul ring, and he couldn't be disturbed at all. Otherwise, not only would he waste a precious God-bestowed soul ring, but Lu Yuan would also be severely injured. Therefore, Chihiro Snow could only secretly worry by herself. However, Lu Yuan, who was in the state of absorbing the soul ring, didn't have any spare energy to notice what was happening outside. Naturally, he didn't know Chihiro Snow's worries. The soul ring above his head was still increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It started with a tinge of red, and then the red became denser and denser. Finally, the black color dissipated, and the entire soul ring turned completely red. A 100,000-year soul ring. It reached a 100,000-year soul ring so easily. It's only been 5 minutes. Seeing the blood-red soul ring above Lu Yuan's head, a trace of shock flashed through Chihiro Snow's eyes. Although she knew that Lu Yuan's 5th soul ring was already a 100,000-year soul ring, and that his 6th soul ring should be able to withstand a 100,000-year soul ring, she didn't expect Lu Yuan to increase the age of his soul ring to a 100,000-year soul ring in just 5 minutes. Furthermore, he looked like he didn't use any effort at all, and his face was still indifferent. It was obvious that Lu Yuan didn't even feel much pressure. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow was slightly silent. She knew that Lu Yuan's physique had far exceeded her expectations. Furthermore, thinking of Lu Yuan's past character of planning before acting, Chihiro Snow's worries slowly disappeared. It seemed that Lu Yuan had his own considerations for doing this. His physique was completely able to withstand the burden of rapidly increasing the age of his soul ring. On the other hand, she was worried and confused, and thought too much about it. Sitting cross-legged not far from Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's watery golden eyes moved slightly, and she stared unblinkingly at Lu Yuan. After reaching the 100,000-year level, the speed of the soul ring's increase had obviously slowed down a lot, but the age of the soul ring was still increasing. At first, it was only a faint blood-red color, but as time passed, the blood-red color became deeper and deeper. At the same time, the energy fluctuations enveloping Lu Yuan's body also became stronger and stronger. The age of the soul ring is still increasing? Chihiro Snow whispered softly. Benefiting from the knowledge of soul beasts that Lu Yuan would occasionally reveal, she knew that 100,000-year soul beasts weren't the end of soul beasts. Above 100,000-year soul beasts, there were 200,000-year soul beasts, 300,000-year soul beasts, and even older soul beasts. These soul beasts were also known as ferocious beasts. Could it be that Ibuchi wants to obtain a ferocious beast soul ring this time? Chihiro Snow muttered, and a trace of astonishment flashed through her eyes. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that Lu Yuan had such a plan. He definitely wanted to break through to the 200,000-year level. This guy's character was like that. I hope you can succeed, Ibuchi, Chihiro Snow said softly in her heart. From the rising sun to the scorching sun in the sky, and then to the setting sun in the west, a day had passed in the blink of an eye. The red soul ring above Lu Yuan's head was as deep as blood, and its age had far surpassed that of an ordinary soul ring. Break for me. Lu Yuan muttered in his heart, and the golden dragon bloodline in his body began to circulate. Golden scales covered Lu Yuan's body, and a powerful force of blood burst forth. The power of the god-bestowed soul ring increased by a large margin once again. The blood-red soul ring above Lu Yuan's head finally underwent a new change. 2 golden patterns were engraved on the original blood-red soul ring, and it was very strange. With the help of Lu Yuan's golden dragon bloodline, the age of the god-bestowed soul ring was finally increased to 200,000 year, and it became a ferocious beast soul ring. As expected, a 200,000-year soul ring is so vast and overbearing that a 100,000-year soul ring can't compare to it at all. However, although the pressure is great, I can still feel that this isn't my limit. The age can still be increased a little. Lu Yuan's heart moved, and he began to break through to a higher age. Golden dragon armor, appear. Golden dragon domain, appear. The external soul bone and talent domain appeared at the same time, and Lu Yuan instantly received a huge boost. The age of the god-bestowed soul ring slowly increased again. Finally, the sun went down, and the increase in the age of the soul ring finally stopped. Have I reached my limit? Lu Yuan frowned, and his face was pale. Bean-sized beads of sweat kept falling, and his body trembled slightly. This was a sign that he had reached his limit. Enough. Too much is as bad as not enough. Start absorbing. Lu Yuan muttered in his heart, and then he stopped increasing the age of the soul ring. His clear soul power surged crazily, and he began to refine the energy of the soul ring. It was naturally not easy to absorb a ferocious beast soul ring. Even with Lu Yuan's physique, he still needed a lot of time. Just as the soul ring was being absorbed, 3 days passed in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it was already noon of the 4th day. Seems like Ibuchi has succeeded. Sensing that Lu Yuan's aura was slowly stabilizing, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. Looking at Lu Yuan's current situation, the absorption of the soul ring was coming to an end. Really amazing, Chihiro Snow sighed softly, and his eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. As expected of the man that she had taken a fancy to, he was just so outstanding. Not long after Chihiro Snow sighed, Lu Yuan's eyes, which had been tightly shut, suddenly opened, and a fierce aura swept out. He stood up, and the golden dragon's dragon might behind him filled the entire place. Below him, 6 purple, black, red, and red soul rings flickered with dazzling light. Especially the 6th soul ring with 2 golden patterns, it was even more eye-catching. 6th soul ring, 250,000 years old. Not bad. Looking at the soul ring below him, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chapter 679. Abuchi, have you finished absorbing? Seeing Lu Yuan stand up, Chihiro Snow hurriedly walked in front of Lu Yuan with a hint of concern in his tone. I've finished absorbing. It's really been hard on you these past few days, Cher. Lu Yuan said softly as he raised his hand to tuck Chihiro Snow's blonde hair behind his ear. It's not hard, it's what I should do. Chihiro Snow shook his head and said. Oh, right, Abuchi, after absorbing a fierce beast level soul ring, your rank should have increased a lot, right? Chihiro Snow asked curiously. It has indeed increased a lot. I'm now a rank 65 Soul Emperor, and this is the result of my efforts to suppress it. The energy contained in a fierce beast level soul ring is really too strong. It seems that I have to think of a way to compress my soul power properly. It's not necessarily a good thing to increase my rank too quickly. Now that I've improved so much, I'll have to spend a lot of time consolidating it. Lu Yuan sighed softly and said. I think you're just standing there and talking. Others can't even ask for your treatment, yet you still dislike this and that. Do you know how big of a blow this is to others? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ridicule. Oh, so even my share was affected? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. What do you think? Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said snappily. Hearing this, Lu Yuan chuckled, stretched out his hands, and gently embraced Chihiro Snow. Share, how many days have I been absorbing? Lu Yuan asked softly as he stroked Chihiro Snow's long blonde hair. More than 4 days, this is already the 5th day. Chihiro Snow said gently. It's already the 5th day? It seems like this soul ring took quite a bit of time, Lu Yuan muttered to himself. So you're leaving again? Looking into Lu Yuan's eyes, Chihiro Snow asked with a hint of reluctance in his tone. Lu Yuan had only spoken 2 sentences to her in the past 4 days. He had spent the rest of his time absorbing soul rings. Was he going to leave again after absorbing them? He didn't even have time to accompany her for a while. Chihiro Snow felt indignant. The finals are about to begin. Time is of the essence. I really don't have the time to stay. How about this, Schwerer? Why don't you come with me and come back after the finals are over? It's only a few days anyway. Besides, you can also watch me fight in the arena. What do you think, Cher? Pinching Chihiro Snow's nose, Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. All right then. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. If it was only a few days, then it shouldn't affect the assessment. Plus, she felt a little bored staying here alone. Hearing this, Lu Yuan revealed a bright smile. Then let's go. With that, Lu Yuan hugged Chihiro Snow's delicate body. A golden dragon appeared under their feet, and the two of them directly rose into the air and left the angel realm. I'm going to the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Cher, do you want to come with me? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and asked. No, I've thought about it for a long time. I don't want to see her in the future, so as to avoid awkwardness. Chihiro Snow shook her head and said. Sigh, I've always wanted to get closer to you, but until now, there hasn't been much progress. For me, this should be the only thing that I haven't seen any results after trying so hard. Lu Yuan sighed slightly and said. No, you still have some results. Although I still hate her, at least I'm not as hostile to her as before. You don't have to worry too much. The knot in our hearts is almost dead. Even if it's you, it's hard to untie it. At most, I'll treat her as a stranger in the future. Chihiro Snow said softly as she caressed Lu Yuan's face. Stranger. Lu Yuan shook her head and remained silent. She knew that Chihiro Snow was just comforting her. Treating Bibidon as a stranger was not easy for Chihiro Snow. But a thought suddenly arose in his mind. If Bibidon and Chihiro Snow were really just strangers and not mother and daughter, how good would that be? But this thought was just raised, and it was suppressed by Lu Yuan. Bibidon and Chihiro Snow were not mother and daughter. How could this be? It's too absurd. I really don't have time to think too much. All the thoughts jumped out of my mind. Shaking his head and throwing away the thought, Lu Yuan said to Chihiro Snow, "Cher, you wait for me here. I'll go to the pavilion in the middle of the lake and come back to pick you up immediately. Go, I'll wait here for you to come back. But don't forget the time when you see your teacher. Abuchi, don't be too attached to her. You have to remember that she is your teacher." Chihiro Snow's faint voice sounded. As soon as these words came out, it was like a thunderbolt directly exploded in Lu Yuan's mind, causing him to be stunned on the spot. Why did Cher suddenly say this? Could it be? Cher, what do you mean by this? Lu Yuan asked with some difficulty. Abuchi, we have known each other for 8 years. Just as you understand me, I understand you very well. There is no one in this world who understands you better than me. Your thoughts are never written on your face, and it is difficult for others to see what you are thinking. But I am different. I understand you very well. Although sometimes you control it very well, you will reveal your true feelings unintentionally. And my observation is very sharp. Chihiro Snow's voice was very calm, but it made Lu Yuan's expression change again and again. Cher. Lu Yuan called out softly, somewhat absent-minded. Chihiro Snow ignored him and continued, "Do you still remember that time when you sent the letter back? You wrote 2 letters, one for me and one for her. Clearly, Helena and Jujuqing were also there. They are both your women and have a much closer relationship with you than her, but you still wrote to her. Then can I understand that in your heart, her position is actually not much different from mine, higher than Helena and Jujuqing? I am your legal wife, your first love. It is normal for me to be the most special in your heart. What about her? A teacher's position in your heart is actually higher than your own woman. Abuchi, can you tell me what is going on?" Hearing this, Lu Yuan opened his mouth and said, "Cher, actually, I really didn't think so much. I just subconsciously wrote 2 letters. It is precisely subconscious that is scary." Chihiro Snow sighed slightly and said. Chapter 680. It's the subconscious that's so scary. Chihiro Snow sighed softly. Because before you even realize it, she's already taken up such an important position. Once you realize it, I don't even dare to imagine what will happen. If that day really comes, I think it'll be a tragedy. Chihiro Snow said in a deep voice. Lu Yuan was silent when he heard that. He naturally knew what he was thinking, but when he thought of Chihiro Snow and Helena, he had suppressed those thoughts. However, suppressing them once or twice didn't mean that they were gone. On the contrary, as his thoughts were suppressed time and time again, Lu Yuan didn't realize that some of his thoughts had become stronger and stronger. After being exposed by Chihiro Snow, his heart was filled with complex emotions. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know where to start. Abuchi, promise me that you won't touch it, okay? Chihiro Snow asked gently as he stroked Lu Yuan's face. Lu Yuan was silent for a moment when he heard that. After a while, he asked, Cher, when did you realize this? I sensed it a long time ago, but I only confirmed it more than a year ago, when you sent the letter back. I didn't think of this at first, but you never came back that year. I was worried about you and thought about you all the time. The more I thought about you, the more I understood some things, no matter how shocking they were. I'm not Jujuqing, nor am I Helena. You know that I'm very smart. I've liked to think about things since I was young. Back in the Heaven Do Empire, even the slightest clues could be used to track down the rebels. Furthermore, your actions were so obvious. It was really hard for me not to think about it. Furthermore, your actions after coming back, your attitude towards her, and the way you look at her all confirmed my guess. You really do have her in your heart. Chihiro Snow said calmly. Cher, then why didn't you tell me about this until now? Lu Yuan asked, somewhat puzzled. Because you used to be able to restrain yourself, I was too lazy to mention it, but now, I feel that your resistance is getting weaker and weaker. Looking into Lu Yuan's eyes, Chihiro Snow said softly. His resistance is getting weaker. Thinking of that time when Bibidan's face was covered in tears and lying in his arms, Lu Yuan's heart couldn't help but tremble. It seemed that his resistance was indeed getting weaker and weaker. It seems I was right. You remembered it yourself, Chihiro Snow said faintly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan remained silent. Looking at Lu Yuan's silent look, Chihiro Snow's voice became gentler. Abuchi, don't think about it, okay? She's your teacher after all. It's impossible between the two of you. Is the identity of a teacher very important? Lu Yuan said faintly, his eyes showing that he didn't think so. Can the relationship of a teacher and disciple bind him? Absolutely not. Then is the identity of mother and daughter important? Chihiro Snow immediately asked. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was silent again. This is indeed important, and can almost be said to be taboo. Answer me, is the identity of mother and daughter important? Chihiro Snow's beautiful face was covered with a layer of frost. Her eyes stared straight at Lu Yuan, a touch of golden flame burning in her watery golden eyes. Yes. Lu Yuan softly spat out 2 words. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow's expression softened. She gently touched Lu Yuan's face and said, Abuchi, I'm willing to accept that you're fickle in love, and I don't mind if you find another, but you absolutely can't touch her. Otherwise, I'll hate you. I'll really hate you. No matter what, she's my biological mother. If you really touch her, then the day you touch her will be the day I leave you. Chihiro Snow's voice was very calm, but it carried an unprecedented determination. Lu Yuan's expression couldn't help but change. He quickly looked at Chihiro Snow in his arms. Seeing the stubbornness and unyielding on Chihiro Snow's face, Lu Yuan closed his eyes. His expression showed some pain and struggle. After a moment, he opened his eyes and sighed softly. He said, Don't worry, Cher. I won't touch the taboo of mother and daughter. He absolutely couldn't accept letting Chihiro Snow leave. After all, she was the person hidden in the deepest part of his heart. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's beautiful face revealed a trace of a smile. She gently lay in Lu Yuan's arms. The strong coldness and stubbornness from before all disappeared. Remember your words, Abuchi. You absolutely can't touch the taboo of mother and daughter. Chihiro Snow's finger drew circles on Lu Yuan's chest as she said softly, I will. Lu Yuan nodded. He stroked Chihiro Snow's long golden hair and sighed. How good would it be if you two weren't mother and daughter? This time, he finally said what he had been thinking in his heart. Unfortunately, we are, so you don't have to think too much about it. Chihiro Snow said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's right hand that was stroking Chihiro Snow paused. Immediately, it returned to normal. He slightly lowered his right hand and wrapped it around Chihiro Snow's waist, tightly hugging her in his arms. Everything is ready. Since you've come out, the competition can continue. Looking at Lu Yuan in front of him, Bibidon said softly. Everything is ready so quickly? Lu Yuan asked softly. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. Don't underestimate the power of the Martial Soul Palace. The Martial Soul Palace of the entire continent is mobilized. This power is far beyond your imagination. The matter has been confirmed, but the evidence hasn't arrived yet. You still have to wait for 2 more days. If the competition starts tomorrow, the top 3 will be in 2 or 3 days. We'll definitely make it in time, so you can do whatever you want. Bibidon said softly. That's true. Lu Yuan nodded. The Martial Soul Palace's power was enormous. If they really wanted to investigate something, it would be easy. After all, this was the largest Soul Master organization in the entire continent. No matter which city it was, even if it was a low-level city like Notting City, there would still be a Martial Spirit Branch Hall. Therefore, if the Martial Spirit Branch Hall really wanted to investigate something, there would be very few things that they could not find. Although this speed seemed fast, it was actually very normal. Abuchi, you don't look right. Why do you look so pale? Are you sick? After they finished talking, Bibidon noticed that Lu Yuan's expression was a little strange. She quickly asked. Teacher, I'm fine. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. You don't look fine. Bibidon took 2 steps forward and raised her jade-like hand to touch Lu Yuan's face. Teacher, I'm really fine. Seeing Bibidon reach out her jade-like hand to touch his face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but take a step back. Bibidon touched nothing. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but look at Lu Yuan. There was a trace of doubt in her eyes. She didn't understand why Lu Yuan wanted to avoid her. This brat was clearly in front of her just a moment ago. Meeting Bibidon's gaze, Lu Yuan subconsciously looked away. Chapter 681. Seeing Lu Yuan averting his gaze and not daring to look at her, Bibidon didn't know why, but she felt a little flustered and uncomfortable. Moreover, she always felt that her disciple was deliberately avoiding her, which made her, who was already very sensitive, think too much in an instant. Even his most beloved disciple was now hiding from him. Bibidon mocked herself slightly in her heart. Abuchi, now even you despise your teacher? Bibidon asked softly. Her tone was flat, but if one listened carefully, they would find that there was a trace of tremor in Bibidon's flat tone, revealing that Bibidon's current mood was not as calm as she appeared to be. On the contrary, the undercurrent was turbulent, as if something was suppressed. Once it couldn't be suppressed, it would completely erupt. Lu Yuan's senses were the most sensitive. After listening to Bibidon's words, even if his heart was very complicated at the moment, he still immediately perceived Bibidon's current state. It was very dangerous. If he didn't control it well, it was very likely that Bibidon would quickly turn evil. And this was all because of him. Although Yu Xiaogang's figure had not been completely expelled from Bibidon's heart, it was slowly fading away, and he had become the most important person in Bibidon's heart at the moment. After all, he was the person who understood Bibidon the most in the world, and the person who understood Bibidon's pain the most. Bibidon had long had a different kind of dependence on him in her heart. What Lu Yuan didn't know was that when he hugged Bibidon's body that day, he was thinking too much. Similarly, Bibidon also had some strange emotions. Bibidon's feelings for him, even Bibidon herself didn't realize it, had already deviated from the ordinary feelings between a teacher and a disciple. Therefore, Lu Yuan's deliberate avoidance today might have been due to Chihiro Snow's request in Lu Yuan's mind. However, in Bibidon's heart, this was the prelude to the departure of the disciple she cared about the most. This was the prelude to the abandonment of her by the only person in the entire world whom she cared about the most. She was someone who had been abandoned before. If she were to be abandoned again, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Yuan didn't know what kind of place he had in Bibidon's heart, but he knew that Bibidon was in a very dangerous situation. If he continued to retreat, then everything he had done for Bibidon would be for naught, and it might even cause Bibidon to fall into an even more extreme state of madness. Therefore, in the face of Bibidon's question, Lu Yuan immediately expressed his denial. "I will never abandon teacher, never," Lu Yuan said with a serious expression as he turned slightly and looked into Bibidon's pink eyes. Lu Yuan's words came from the bottom of his heart. These were true words. With Bibidon's experience, she naturally understood when she heard them. Immediately, the grave expression on her face relaxed a little. Under her sleeves, the tightly clenched fists also slowly relaxed. "Then why did you avoid teacher just now?" Although her expression relaxed a little, Bibidon's heart still held a grudge. Why did Lu Yuan refuse her care? "I'm not avoiding you, teacher. I really don't have such thoughts," Lu Yuan said. "Is that so?" Bibidon said softly. It was impossible to tell if she was happy or angry. She looked at Lu Yuan. Her red lips parted slightly, and a faint voice sounded. "Okay, then come over. Come closer to me." Hearing this, Lu Yuan's expression froze slightly. Facing Bibidon's oppressive gaze, he hesitated for a moment. In the end, he still walked over to Bibidon's side. He couldn't watch Bibidon fall into an extreme and crazy situation without doing anything. Moreover, this time, Bibidon's emotional changes were related to him. Seeing Lu Yuan walk in front of her, Bibidon's eyes moved slightly. She gently raised her lily-white hand and stroked Lu Yuan's face. This time, Lu Yuan didn't avoid it. Bibidon's expression was very calm. Her eyes were filled with love. Everything seemed to be the same as before. There was no difference. Seeing Bibidon's usual appearance, Lu Yuan blinked. He was a little amused in his heart. "Ah, it seems like I'm overthinking. I have bad thoughts about teacher, But teacher might not feel the same about me. How can teacher be so easily moved? I'm a little afraid because of Cher's words, but this is just a manifestation of my guilty conscience. Teacher still treats me the same as before. She only treats me as her disciple. Cher doesn't allow me to be with teacher, because mother-daughter relationships are taboo. It's not like she doesn't allow me to be close to teacher. What's the difference between teacher touching my face and me rubbing Chioa's head? It's just a form of love. The only difference is that I treat Chioa like a sister, while teacher treats me like a master and disciple. That's why I only need to maintain my relationship with teacher. Why should I purposely avoid it and make teacher unhappy? I think Cher purposely told me all this today so that I won't be hot-headed and think about taking a few more steps forward. She doesn't really want me to distance myself from teacher. Lu Yuan felt a lot more relaxed as he thought about this. He lifted his hand and covered Bibidon's hand that was touching his face, just like before. Bibidon was first stunned when she saw this. After that, a smile surfaced on her pretty face. This familiar action allowed her to completely dispel the doubts in her heart. Her disciple was still the same as before. He didn't despise her. She immediately calmed down. Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon, and Bibidon stared back at him. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. On the surface, they didn't seem any different from before. In fact, only they knew what they were thinking. No, perhaps some of them didn't understand either. Chihiro Snow's golden eyes blinked as he looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly, "You're back?" "Yes, I'm back. We can leave now." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. "All right." Chihiro Snow stood up and smiled as he held Lu Yuan's hand. Chihiro Snow rarely took the initiative to hold hands. This was because Lu Yuan was the one who took the initiative most of the time in his relationship with Chihiro Snow. That was why Chihiro Snow's actions today surprised Lu Yuan. "What are you waiting for? Aren't you going out?" Chihiro Snow tilted his head and asked doubtfully. "Oh, all right. Let's go." Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He held Chihiro Snow's hand and walked straight out of the Pope's palace. Feeling the warmth from his hand and looking at Lu Yuan's smiling but still slightly frowning brows, Chihiro Snow sighed in her heart. Her heart was actually very complicated. Chapter 682. Abuchi, are you bringing me to meet your teammates? Chihiro Snow asked in surprise as she watched Lu Yuan holding her hand and walking towards the Holy Light Hotel. "Yes, I'm bringing you to meet them." Lu Yuan chuckled. "But aren't you afraid that my identity will be exposed if you bring me to meet them?" Chihiro Snow asked in a gentle voice. "What's there to be afraid of? None of them have seen you before. Some of them might know Xue Qinghe, but none of them would know Chihiro Snow. Besides, it's too boring for you to be alone. This time, I'll bring you to meet them. It'll be lively," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Have you forgotten this?" Chihiro Snow pointed at his glabella. There was a small six-winged angel brand there. It was the symbol of the 9 trials of the angel. Lu Yuan's 9 trials of the Holy Sword was just a sword-shaped brand. At most, it was a little strange. Others might find it strange, but they definitely wouldn't recognize it. After all, the original form of the Holy Sword brand was a miniature version of the angel's holy sword. Since the angel god ascended to the divine realm, no one had seen the angel's holy sword in the continent for tens of thousands of years. How could anyone recognize it? Unless Chihiro Snow became a god, the angel's holy sword would only reappear in the world. Therefore, Lu Yuan's holy sword brand was harmless. However, Chihiro Snow's 6-winged angel was different. Not many people knew about this martial soul, but there were definitely some. Some of the upper echelons of the sects knew about the existence of the 6-winged angel martial soul. With such a brand on his glabella, it was very likely that Chihiro Snow's identity would be exposed. Because of Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan's thoughts were a little confused for a moment. He actually didn't think about this problem. However, he naturally had his own way to deal with it. After all, other than being unable to have children, he was basically omnipotent. "Of course, I didn't forget. Look at this. Lu Yuan smiled. With a flash of light in his hand, a golden gem appeared in his hand. Under Chihiro Snow's astonished gaze, Lu Yuan helped Chihiro Snow put the headdress on her head. The golden jewel fell right between Chihiro Snow's eyebrows and stuck tightly to her forehead, completely covering the six-winged angel brand below. Furthermore, with such a golden headdress, Qian Renxue, who was already very beautiful, appeared even more noble. The golden gemstone, coupled with her pure temperament, gave people a feeling that she was unattainable. She was like a goddess that could not be profaned. This is. Chihiro Snow touched the teardrop-shaped golden gem between her eyebrows and looked at Lu Yuan curiously. It's a Class 7 spiritual type defensive soul tool, Angel's Blessing. I made it during the week when I left the Angel's secret realm and stayed in the Martial Soul Palace to wait for Zhuqing and the others. During those few days, my main job during the day was to make this thing besides accompanying you. I gave Zhuqing a 100,000-year blue-silver emperor right thigh bone, senior sister a 50,000-year skull bone, and a 90,000-year torso bone. However, I didn't give you much. Therefore, I specially made this Angel's Blessing for you. Today, I finally have the chance to give it to you. Lu Yuan said gently. You're very generous. You gave the 100,000-year blue-silver emperor right soul bone to Zhuqing and the 90,000-year torso bone to Hulena. You're giving away such precious soul bones just like that, while I only have a Class 7 spiritual type defensive soul tool. Abuchi, I'm a little jealous. What do you think I should do? Chihiro Snow blinked and asked with a smile. I want to give you the soul bone too, but you have the angel's set. You're rich, so you don't need it. Lu Yuan shrugged and said helplessly. I don't care. Anyway, I'm jealous. You have to make it up to me. Chihiro Snow said coquettishly. All right, how do you want me to make it up to you? Lu Yuan asked. Yes, I don't feel like walking right now. I'll punish you by carrying me all the way to the Holy Light Hotel. How about that? Chihiro Snow said with a smile. All right. Share, you've already spoken. I have to do it even if I can't. Lu Yuan smiled and bent down slightly. Chihiro Snow jumped onto Lu Yuan's back and hugged Lu Yuan's neck tightly. Lu Yuan supported Chihiro Snow's slender legs with his hands and slowly walked towards the Holy Light Hotel. Holy Light Hotel. Boss Yuan is back. He even brought a beautiful girl with him. She's even prettier than Chiu. Ma Hongjuan's shout resounded throughout the 6th floor. Suddenly, everyone was shocked by Ma Hongjuan's voice and ran out of their rooms one by one. Wang Chiu, who was playing happily with Ning Rongrong in her room, pouted when she heard Ma Hongjuan's words. She was very unhappy. What is that fatso shouting about? How dare he say that someone is prettier than me? Apart from Sister Na, Chiu has never seen anyone prettier than me. Wang Chiu was indignant. She wanted to see what kind of person could make that fatso say that she was prettier than herself. That was why she grabbed Ning Rongrong's hand and squeezed out the door when Ma Hongjuan's voice rang out. Oh, so many people are gathered here to welcome me. Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile as he looked at the crowd in front of him. No, we're all here to see the beauty. That fatso said that you brought someone prettier than Chiu. We didn't believe him, so we came here to see. Oscar immediately answered Lu Yuan's question. She might not be prettier than Chiu, but they're on par. Share, come out and meet everyone. Lu Yuan smiled and stepped aside. Instantly, Qian Renshua's figure was revealed. TSK, so beautiful. Oscar couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw Chihiro Snow's appearance. This was the first time he had been so stunned by a woman's appearance. She's really beautiful. Everyone else couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Even Dugu Yang and the other girls were a little dazed. This was their first time seeing such a beautiful girl. Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile when he saw everyone's reaction. It seemed like Chihiro Snow's appearance was very attractive to both men and women. Lu Yuan opened his mouth and was about to speak when a tender voice rang out. Lu Yuan couldn't help but stop. Make way, everyone make way. Chiu wants to see how pretty that fatso is. Jiang Zhu and Dugu Yang were pushed aside, and Wang Qiu'er and Ning Rongrong appeared behind them. Chapter 683. Lu Yuan looked around and saw a beautiful young lady with a face as delicate as jade. Her skin was fair and smooth, and she had a high nose bridge. She had bright golden hair, and she stared unblinkingly at Chihiro Snow with her big, pinkish blue eyes. She shook her head as she looked at him. This fatty only knows how to spout nonsense. She's indeed a beauty, but she's only as pretty as Qiu'er. She's not as pretty as sister Na. Wang Qiu'er pouted and said softly, "What are you talking about, Qiu'er?" After hearing Wang Qiu'er's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but glare at her. This brat dares to say anything. Doesn't she know that the prettier a woman is, the more she likes to compete? She can't stand it when someone says that someone else is prettier than her. Wasn't this lass trying to add fuel to the conflict between Na and Qiu'er? In Lu Yuan's heart, Chihiro Snow's looks weren't inferior to Jiu Yuana's. She only lacked charisma. However, charisma could be made up for. When Chihiro Snow became a god, he would be able to catch up to Jiu Yuana. However, Wang Qiu'er didn't know that much. She was still very innocent. When she saw Lu Yuan glaring at her, she immediately pouted and said, "I'm not wrong if you're angry at me. I'm speaking the truth. Sister Na is prettier." After hearing this, Lu Yuan scratched his head when he saw Wang Qiu'er's aggrieved look. He was a little helpless. Wang Qiu'er was his most beloved sister. He couldn't bear to be angry at her. However, on the other hand, he was afraid that Chihiro Snow would think too much. Therefore, he immediately looked at Chihiro Snow and prepared to say something. However, he was a little too sensitive because of what had happened today. Chihiro Snow was actually very magnanimous. He wouldn't care about such a small matter. She shook her head at Lu Yuan, indicating that she didn't care. "Are you Qiu'er? I've heard Abuchi mention you many times, and he praised you for being obedient and pretty. Now that I've met you, I can tell that is right. You're indeed a rare beauty." Chihiro Snow smiled faintly as he looked at Wang Qiu'er. When she heard Chihiro Snow's words, Wang Qiu'er was delighted, and she said coquettishly, "Actually, elder sister, you're very pretty too." It had to be said that Chihiro Snow was very good with words. Wang Qiu'er was most concerned about her brother, Lu Yuan. After all, she had a brother complex. Secondly, it was her appearance. Which girl didn't care about her appearance? Qian Renshua's words didn't just praise Wang Qiu'er's beauty, she even mentioned that Lu Yuan had praised Wang Qiu'er's beauty many times in front of her. How could Wang Qiu'er not be happy after hearing this? This was double praise from both Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow. Wang Qiu'er's face immediately lit up. She even called her elder sister. When he saw Wang Qiu'er's 180-degree change in attitude, Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at Chihiro Snow in astonishment. No wonder she was his share. She was really something. Ahem. Lu Yuan coughed. He looked at everyone and said, "Since everyone is here, let me introduce everyone. This is my first girlfriend, and also my fiancée. You can call her Cher. Hello, everyone. I'm Cher. Thank you for taking care of Abuchi over the past few days." Chihiro Snow greeted everyone. "Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, elder sister Cher." Everyone also greeted Chihiro Snow. "Alright, everyone has already met each other. Let's go back first. We'll gather again for dinner." Lu Yuan waved his hand and gestured for everyone to leave. When they heard Lu Yuan's words, everyone obediently returned to their rooms. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow back to his room. Of course, Ning Rongrong and Wang Qiu'er were following behind them. Zhu Zhuqing was standing outside room 601. When she saw Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow walk in together, she smiled and nodded at Chihiro Snow. Their relationship had become much closer after they were both spanked. That was why Zhu Zhuqing, who was always cold, revealed such a smile. Chihiro Snow also smiled and responded. However, when she looked at Zhu Zhuqing, she realized that Zhu Zhuqing seemed to have become a little different. She seemed to have matured a lot. After thinking for a while, She quickly thought of something. She looked at Lu Yuan with a strange look in her eyes. "Let's all go in," Lu Yuan said softly and pulled Chihiro Snow into the room. Zhu Zhuqing and the other two also followed behind and walked in together. They each found a seat on the sofa and sat down. Looking at Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan smiled and asked, "Cher, do you mind sharing a room with me and Zhuqing?" Chihiro Snow didn't answer. Instead, he looked at Lu Yuan and asked plainly, "You ate Zhuqing?" "It was just an accident," Lu Yuan said. "An accident? I think it was you who couldn't hold back." Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan and said angrily. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly and didn't refute. Since Chihiro Snow thought so, then so be it. He couldn't say that it was because Ning Rongrong drugged him. If that happened, wouldn't Chihiro Snow explode on the spot and beat Ning Rongrong up? "I knew it, you pervert." Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan, looking as if he already knew. This must be the daughter of the Seven Treasures glazed sect. Looking at this situation, Abuchi, do I have another sister? Chihiro Snow turned his gaze to Ning Rongrong and asked with a smile. Regarding Rongrong, didn't you agree to it back then? Lu Yuan spread his hands and said. You remember this clearly. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan and said angrily. Hehe, after all, it's related to my happy life. Lu Yuan chuckled. As soon as these words were spoken, Chen Renxue immediately rolled her eyes. She was helpless against such a Lu Yuan. Oh yes, Abuchi, did you get your sixth soul ring? Zhu Zhuqing asked with concern as she looked at Lu Yuan. Hearing this, Wang Qiu'er and Ning Rongrong couldn't help but look over with concern. The issue of soul rings was of utmost importance, and they were naturally worried about Lu Yuan. I got it. It's a very good soul ring, and it's slightly older than my fifth soul ring. Lu Yuan smiled and said. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong didn't have much of a reaction. She was only happy that Lu Yuan had obtained a soul ring. However, a look of astonishment flashed across Zhu Zhuqing and Wang Qiu'er's eyes. They knew that Lu Yuan's fifth soul ring was a 100,000-year soul ring. If it was older than his fifth soul ring, wouldn't his sixth soul ring be at least a 100,000-year soul ring? This was a little shocking. After all, a soul emperor with 200,000-year soul rings was a little shocking. Brother, where did your sixth soul ring come from? Was it the same situation as last time? Wang Qiu'er was a little curious as she asked. She thought that it would be the same as last time. After all, it wasn't difficult for Lu Yuan to get a 100,000-year soul beast to be sacrificed. All he had to do was say the word, and Jiu Yuana would do it for him. No, this soul ring was bestowed by the gods. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Chapter 684. God bestowed. Wang Qiu'er and Ning Rongrong couldn't help but blink when they heard this term. They had never heard of such a thing before, so they were a little confused. Lu Yuan chuckled when he saw their confused expressions and said, God bestowed is actually a God-bestowed soul ring. A God-bestowed soul ring is formed by a god using his or her own divine power. It can give the person who absorbs it a soul ring that's most suitable for his or her age. According to the absorber's endurance, if his or her physique is strong enough, the God-bestowed soul ring can even be raised to 100,000 years. 100,000 years. Wang Qiu'er and Ning Rongrong couldn't help but look at each other when they heard Lu Yuan's words. They could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. At the same time, Wang Qiu'er understood what was going on. She knew that Lu Yuan's sixth soul ring must have been a result of his powerful physique. He must have increased the age of his God-bestowed soul ring to more than 100,000 years. After all, those who possessed the Golden Dragon martial soul had strong physiques, and Lu Yuan's Golden Dragon was even more special. Furthermore, he had the help of the Golden Dragon's bloodline. It shouldn't be a problem for him to obtain a 100,000-year soul ring. Abuchi, where did you get this God-bestowed soul ring? Ning Rongrong was a little confused as she asked. This has something to do with the God's test. I accepted the God's test, and that's why I was able to obtain a God-bestowed soul ring. When you have the chance to take part in the God's test in the future, You'll also be able to obtain a God-bestowed soul ring when you break through the bottleneck during the test. However, it's still a little early to tell you all this. When you've grown to a certain level, I'll bring you to find a suitable inheritance ground for the God's test, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Really? Ning Rongrong's eyes brightened when she heard this. Of course. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Abuchi, you're so nice. Ning Rongrong couldn't help but speak coquettishly when she heard Lu Yuan's words. Since you know I'm good, why don't you come over and let me hug you? Lu Yuan stretched out his hand and said softly. Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing rolled their eyes at the same time. Ning Rongrong, on the other hand, glanced at Chihiro Snow first, then bit her red lips, stood up, and slowly threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. You guys must be bored these days, right? There's no competition, and I'm not here. You're all alone here. Lu Yuan hugged Ning Rongrong and placed her on his lap. He gently sniffed the delicate fragrance on her body and asked softly, I'm fine. I have Chou to play with me. Zhuqing, on the other hand, is quite bored. You're not around, and no one talks to her. She's always alone in her room, Ning Rongrong said gently. This is in line with Zhuqing's character. Lu Yuan smiled faintly when he heard this. Zhu Zhuqing was just like her martial soul. She was quiet and shy, and she didn't move much. On the contrary, she was a little like a homebody. Unless she went out with Lu Yuan, she spent most of her time alone in her room. Are you practicing your knitting skills again? Lu Yuan turned his gaze to Zhu Zhuqing and asked with a smile. Yes. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly when she heard this. So that's the case. However, I don't know why you're practicing that. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. Zhu Zhuqing glanced at Lu Yuan when she heard this, but didn't answer. Oh yes, I just received news that the competition will be held again tomorrow. Therefore, everyone won't be bored from tomorrow onwards. At least, we can go and watch the competition, Lu Yuan said. The competition will be held again tomorrow? Ning Rongrong was a little surprised as she asked. Yes, tomorrow will be the competition for the top 12 to the top 6 that wasn't finished last time. Then, it will be the top 6 to the top 3, and finally, it will be the competition for the championship of the top 3, Lu Yuan said gently. It's finally starting. I don't know what's wrong with this martial soul palace. The competition stopped just like that. The reason given is that the arena is still under repair. Repairing the arena actually takes so long. It's already been 5 days. This efficiency is really too low. Ning Rongrong curled her lips and said. Lu Yuan paused for a moment when he heard this. He smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Zhu Zhuqing and Chihiro Snow looked at each other and an indescribable expression flashed across their eyes. You just saw Cher. What do you think of her? Lu Yuan asked softly as he led Ning Rongrong back to her room. They sat down on the bed together. Her attitude is quite good. However, there's always an indescribable noble and majestic aura around her. Moreover, her aura is very strong. I feel a little restrained in front of her, Ning Rongrong said. That's true. Cher's aura is very strong. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to control me. Don't mess around in the future. If Cher catches you red-handed, there's nothing I can do about it, Lu Yuan said as he spread out his hands. I know, Ning Rongrong lowered her head and replied weakly. It's good that you know. Rubbing Ning Rongrong's head, Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. Abuchi seems a little off today. He doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Seeing Lu Yuan send Ning Rongrong out, Zhu Zhuqing looked at Chihiro Snow and said doubtfully. You noticed? Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Chihiro Snow raised his eyebrows. This Zhu Zhuqing's observation skills are quite sharp. Well, I've been with little Yuan for a long time, so I can still notice this. He's obviously smiling, but there's always a touch of sadness in his brows that can't be erased. This is very different from how he used to be. Rongrong and the others might not notice, but I've been sleeping with Abuchi for so long. I think my understanding of him is no worse than yours. So, what happened when he went to the Martial Soul Palace? Zhu Zhuqing asked softly. It's like this. Since Zhu Zhuqing noticed that something was wrong, Chihiro Snow didn't hide it from her. He sighed softly and slowly told her the whole story. Ibuchi actually fell in love with His Holiness the Pope. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were filled with intense shock. How is that possible? His Holiness the Pope is his teacher, Zhu Zhuqing said involuntarily. However, in Ibuchi's heart, I'm afraid he's never seen her as his teacher. He also told me personally that a master-disciple relationship can't stop him at all. Chihiro Snow said. Then, you used yourself to threaten him. That's why he... Zhu Zhuqing looked at Qian Renxue and hesitated. Yeah, I told him that if he dared to touch Bibidon, then the day he touches her will be the day I leave him. Ibuchi loves me and can't bear to leave me. I know that. As long as I said that, he would definitely compromise. But Ibuchi will be very upset. Moreover, threatening him isn't a long-term solution. Zhu Zhuqing said. Chapter 685. I also know that it's not good to threaten him, but what can I do? If it were someone else, I would grit my teeth and accept it. But Bibidon is my biological mother. I can't serve Ibuchi with her. I really can't do it. And it's not just Ibuchi who's upset, I'm also upset. The man I love has fallen in love with my mother. Do you know how I feel? I feel like the sky is falling. If you were me, would you be able to accept it? Chihiro Snow asked with a pained expression. I can't accept it either. Zhu Zhuqing understood Chihiro Snow's feelings after putting herself in his shoes. If she were Chihiro Snow and wanted her to serve her mother, she would never be able to accept it. But how did Ibuchi fall in love with His Holiness the Pope? Zhu Zhuqing was a little puzzled. The age difference between the two was so big. How did Lu Yuan fall in love with Bibidon? Do you know that Ibuchi matures early? Chihiro Snow asked. I know this. Not only is Ibuchi maturing early, but I'm also early. Zhu Zhuqing nodded and said. But what does this have to do with early maturity? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Of course it has something to do with it. And Ibuchi's early maturity is not like yours. You are forced to mature slowly because of the environment, but he has been extremely mature since he was a child, both mentally and emotionally. When he first met me, he was just 7 years old, and I was 13. He fell in love with me at first sight. After that, he pursued me for a whole year. I talked a lot with him and knew him very well. Apart from his appearance at that time, he was no different from an adult. Such a person often likes girls who are older than him, such as me and Hulena. Although Bibidon is old, her appearance is no different from a young girl. She is beautiful, not inferior to me. Coupled with her mature charm and graceful temperament, I'm not surprised that Ibuchi fell in love with her after getting along for a long time. Chihiro Snow said indifferently. You're right, but when did you find out about this? I've been with him for so long, but I never knew about this. Zhu Zhuqing asked curiously. It was 2 years ago when he called out Bibidon's name in his sleep. I remembered it then. Later, he was seriously injured in order to save me. After Jiu Yuena rescued him, she forced him to stay for a year. He sent 2 letters, one to me, and the other to Bibidon. From then on, I was basically sure. Later, when he came back and interacted with Bibidon, his expression and eyes made me completely certain that he had indeed fallen in love with Bibidon. It's just that Ibuchi also realized that his feelings were wrong, so he has been resisting. But these days, his self-resistance is getting weaker and weaker. I'm afraid that he will make a mistake and do something irreversible, so I took the initiative to expose this matter and forced him to make a promise. Chihiro Snow said softly. So that's the case. Then, did you tell Hulena about this? Zhu Zhuqing asked. No, but I always have a feeling that Hulena might have known about Ibuchi's feelings for a long time, but she pretended not to see it, or she didn't want to believe it in her heart. About this matter, she might know more than us. Chihiro Snow said. It had to be said that Chihiro Snow's feeling was really accurate. Among them, only Hulena knew that Lu Yuan had seen Bibidon's body. If one had to say when Lu Yuan had feelings for Bibidon, it must have been after Lu Yuan had seen Bibidon's body. After all, He was a person who had to be responsible for seeing a girl's body. After seeing Bibidan's body, it was impossible for him not to have any reaction at all. It was just that Juliana had made a fuss with him once, and it was from then on that he had completely suppressed his feelings. It would be a lie to say that Juliana didn't notice Lu Yuan's feelings at all. She also had a certain understanding of Lu Yuan, her junior brother, but her reaction wasn't as intense as Chihiro Snow's, because in any case, the relationship between master and disciple was not as taboo as that between mother and daughter. If Lu Yuan really wanted to, Juliana would at most make a fuss, but she wouldn't be like Chihiro Snow, who used herself to coerce Lu Yuan to make a promise. This was the difference between Juliana and Chihiro Snow. What you said is also true. Listening to Chihiro Snow's words, Zhu Zhuqing nodded slightly. She felt that what Chihiro Snow said was very reasonable. Although Juliana was infatuated, she was not brainless. She had never been stupid, and even if she was stupid, she wouldn't have been accepted as a disciple by Bibidan. It was normal for her to be aware. Then are you really going to coerce a Buchi like this for the rest of his life? There is a good saying, it is better to let go than to block. Using yourself to threaten him is useful for a while, but after a long time, the feelings in a Buchi's heart will be suppressed to the extreme, and if it really explodes, it may be even more terrifying at that time. Zhu Zhuqing said. Then what good idea do you have? Chihiro Snow asked. Why don't we just let them be together in name, and not let them have a relationship? Zhu Zhuqing suggested. That's impossible. Apart from the master-disciple relationship, there can't be any other relationship between them. I won't agree to this kind of thing. Zhu Zhuqing had just finished speaking when Qian Renxue flatly refused. But, no buts, this is absolutely impossible. Before Zhu Zhuqing finished speaking, she was interrupted by Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow's voice was very resolute, as if it was really completely impossible. However, her eyes were flickering slightly, and it was obvious that Zhu Zhuqing's words did not affect her. What is absolutely impossible? A faint voice sounded, and Lu Yuan's figure appeared in the room. Seeing the sudden appearance of Lu Yuan, Qian Renxue were shocked. Did you guys have a fight? Lu Yuan frowned. He had just returned from Ning Rongrong's place, and as soon as he came back, he heard Chihiro Snow saying absolutely impossible with an unpleasant expression. He thought that Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing quarreled. No, we didn't quarrel. Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Do you think my eyes are bad? Or my ears are bad? Do you guys look like nothing happened to you? Why can't you talk nicely? Do you have to quarrel? Lu Yuan said faintly, with a hint of anger in his tone. He had experienced too many things today, and his mood was actually very impetuous. Now that he saw Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing quarreling, a nameless fire suddenly rose in his heart. It was just that he had good control, and he did not want to lose his temper in front of Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing, so he tried his best to control it. However, even if he controlled it, there was still a faint anger in his tone. Chapter 686. Zhu Zhuqing walked in front of Lu Yuan, held Lu Yuan's hand, and said softly, "We really didn't quarrel, we were just talking about something." Chihiro Snow couldn't control himself, so he was a little excited. Talking about something? Hearing this, Lu Yuan's eyes flickered. Looking at Chihiro Snow, with his intelligence, how could he not know what the two were talking about? You know? Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked softly. Yes, I know. Abuchi, you really shouldn't have these feelings. Zhu Zhuqing said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was silent. He pulled Zhu Zhuqing to sit on the sofa without saying a word. Looking at Chihiro Snow, who was still a little excited, Lu Yuan sighed softly and said, "Cher, come here." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow hesitated for a moment, then walked to Lu Yuan's side and sat down. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow into his arms. Chihiro Snow's delicate body was trembling, showing that she was not calm at the moment. Gently stroking Chihiro Snow's long golden hair, Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing on the other side and said softly, "Do you want to know when I started to have feelings for teacher?" "Yes." Zhu Zhuqing nodded, and Chihiro Snow, who was in Lu Yuan's arms, could not help but raise his head, his golden eyes looking at Lu Yuan. When I started to have feelings for teacher, it was not long after coming back from the life ruins. At that time, I had just obtained the polychoria, and I still couldn't control it. Once, teacher asked me to demonstrate the polychoria to her, but after the demonstration, due to an accident, I saw teacher's body from head to toe. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing and Chihiro Snow could not help but exclaim at the same time, "Ah!" Lu Yuan ignored them and continued, "You all know my personality. Zhuqing, I think no one knows better than you how you came to be with me. I am a person who will take responsibility after seeing teacher. After seeing teacher, although for some reason I couldn't take responsibility, my mentality changed from then on. Senior sister also knows about this. At that time, it was because of her that I suppressed my thoughts, because I didn't want to make things difficult for you. However, things like feelings are very difficult. Once they arise, it is very difficult to suppress them. As time passed, it became like this. Blame me, and I accept it. Especially Cher, if you want to hit me or scold me, I don't care. However, this matter has nothing to do with teacher. Don't implicate her. She is also a poor person's life. She is also a poor person." Lu Yuan sighed softly. So it turned out to be like this. Fate really makes fools of people. Zhu Zhuqing sighed. She now somewhat understood Lu Yuan. No wonder he had such thoughts. It turned out that he had seen Bibidan's body. Didn't he accept her because he had seen her body? Chihiro Snow's expression was also complicated. No matter how smart she was, she would never have thought that the cause of the matter would be like this. I don't blame you, but do you still remember what you promised me? Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan and asked. Of course. Don't worry, I won't touch the taboo of mother and daughter. Lu Yuan said with a sigh. Okay, then you have to remember. You must not do anything too intimate with her. Chihiro Snow said. Yes, I understand. Lu Yuan nodded and asked, Cher, what do you mean by too intimate? Hugging, touching, kissing, or... Anyway, you can't have an improper relationship with her. Chihiro Snow said. Understood. Lu Yuan nodded, indicating that he understood. Generally speaking, having a relationship refers to sleeping together, so Cher means that as long as they don't sleep together, it's okay? That's quite simple. Lu Yuan was completely relieved. By the way, Cher, you just said that it's absolutely impossible. What's absolutely impossible? Thinking of what he heard when he entered the door, Lu Yuan asked curiously. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing blinked and couldn't help but look at Chihiro Snow. At the same time, Lu Yuan also looked over. Seeing this, Chihiro Snow was silent for a while, then she snorted and said, I won't tell you. Seeing Chihiro Snow's long-awaited proud appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but be slightly stunned. After a while, he reacted and smiled faintly. Okay, if you don't want to tell me, then don't tell me. But tonight, I want you to make up for it. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's charming face immediately turned red. 3 days passed in a flash. In these 3 days, not only had the competition of the top 12 finished, but the top 3 of the top 6 had also finished. As expected, the 3 teams that entered the finals were the Heavenly Star Academy team, the Heaven Do Imperial Academy team, and the Martial Soul Palace team. This time, Lu Yuan finally saw Hulena make a move. Once she activated her 6 soul rings, the strength of a soul emperor shocked everyone. With a simple charm, the 7 opponents were easily swept off the stage by the students of the Martial Soul Palace. As the first soul emperor to step onto the stage since the start of the competition, Hulena could be said to have garnered a lot of attention. She wore a platinum-colored uniform and had a pretty face. Her charm was limitless, and her popularity instantly soared. She became the most popular female contestant in the competition. At the same time, Lu Yuan also saw the other 2 members of the Golden Generation. One was his brother-in-law, Evil Moon, who had a rank 54 soul power and was considered to be quite strong. The other was Yang, who had a rank 53 soul power and was quite talented. However, Lu Yuan didn't have any feelings for him, so he directly ignored him. Who asked this guy to have thoughts about Hulena? If not for the fact that his identity couldn't be exposed, and that he was also a member of the Martial Soul Palace, Lu Yuan would definitely let him feel what it was like to be beaten up by society. He didn't like people thinking about his girlfriend. In this round, Lu Yuan didn't make a move. Instead, he let Zhu Zhuqing lead the team to play. This could be considered their last chance to appear. From the start of the finals, Lu Yuan wouldn't let them go on stage. He wanted to sweep the entire field by himself. Now, it was the morning of the fourth day. Is everyone ready? Looking at everyone, Lu Yuan asked loudly. We're ready. Everyone replied in unison. Very good. Lu Yuan's eyes swept over the team. This time, besides the members of the Heavenly Star Academy team, Zhao Wuji, Flender, and Liu Erlong, who had been in seclusion for many days, would also be going. After all, it was the finals, and everyone had to cheer together. Moreover, today was an important day, and many interesting things were about to happen. It would be a pity if everyone couldn't gather. After all, this kind of good show wasn't something that could be seen all the time. Chapter 687. After everything was ready, Lu Yuan led everyone to the new arena. This time, the arena was in front of the Pontiff's palace. This tournament was different from the previous ones. Even though there were still Soul Masters watching the tournament, the teams that had been eliminated earlier didn't have the right to enter the arena. Only the truly powerful individuals of the younger generation could step onto this stage. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the three teams entered the arena. These three teams were undoubtedly the Heavenly Star Academy, the Martial Soul Palace Academy, and the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. The Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team was led by Tang San. Dai Mubai and Yu Tianheng stood on either side of Tang San. Behind them were the Shi brothers, Oaso, and the auxiliary-type Soul Master Yi Lingling. Although Yi Lingsu and Yi Lingling were both members of the Dragon King Palace, Yi Lingling was still studying at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. However, this was only for now. Once the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament was over, Yi Lingling would still have to return to the Heavenly Star Academy. After all, how could a member of one's own faction stay in another's academy for a long time? Tang San, Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai's gazes fell on Lu Yuan. None of their gazes were friendly, but Lu Yuan naturally couldn't be bothered to deal with them. They were just three bugs. Once he got on stage, he'd have plenty of chances to kill them. On the Martial Soul Palace's side, Hulena stood in the center. On her left and right were Evil Moon and Yang. Behind her were the four soul ancestors from the Martial Soul Palace. There were many geniuses in the Martial Soul Palace. Soul Kings were the only ones from the Golden Generation, but soul ancestors were a dime a dozen. Although they were considered precious in the outside world, they were considered average in the eyes of the Martial Soul Palace. Only the truly top-notch geniuses could catch the eyes of the Martial Soul Palace. Hulena was still wearing her platinum uniform today. Her short blonde hair was neat and clean, and her curvaceous body exuded an enchanting and sexy aura. Her flirtatious eyes stared unblinkingly at Lu Yuan when he appeared. He didn't care about what other people thought. For example, when Yang, who was standing beside her, saw Hulena staring at Lu Yuan like this, there was already some displeasure in his eyes. The Heavenly Star Academy team was naturally led by Lu Yuan, with Zhu Zhuqing and Wang Chua standing beside him. Fu Qinsheng, Ning Rongrong, Dugu Yang, and Ling Wei stood behind them. In terms of looks, there was no doubt that the Heavenly Star Academy was the most attractive. Zhu Zhuqing's cold face and hot figure were enough to compete with Hulena. Wang Chua was even prettier than Hulena. The one with the most elegant temperament and the most eye-catching was undoubtedly Lu Yuan. His handsomeness was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Moreover, he had the attribute of being the center of attention. As long as he was there, the focus of the audience would definitely be on him. Coupled with the fact that the leaders of the two great teams were staring at him without blinking, for a moment, the entire audience's gaze was focused on him. Naturally, Lu Yuan did not have the slightest reaction. With regards to this kind of gaze, he had long been accustomed to it. Even the members of the Heavenly Star Academy, after experiencing so many matches, had long been accustomed to being the center of attention. Lu Yuan turned a deaf ear to the gazes of Tang San and the others. However, towards Helena, Lu Yuan slightly blinked his eyes and responded. Seeing Lu Yuan winking at her, Helena was stunned at first, then the corners of her mouth curled up slightly, blossoming into a beautiful smile. This made the nearby Yang's heart burn with jealousy. He had never seen Helena reveal such a smile to anyone. Xieyue, who is that person? Yang took a small step back, moved closer to Xieyue's side, and asked softly. The captain of the Heavenly Star Academy team, Lu Yuan. His strength is mysterious, and he has never revealed his martial soul. However, he once defeated the Netherworld White Tiger by himself, and destroyed the competition stage. He is very strong, and is a ruthless character. Xieyue said indifferently. I don't believe that he is that strong. Yang shook his head and said. You don't have to believe it, but he is indeed very strong. At least, defeating you is as easy as blowing off dust. Helena's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing this, Yang's expression immediately changed, and he couldn't help but secretly clench his fists. Sister, what are you saying? Seeing the change in Yang's expression, Xieyue was anxious. He knew that Yang had always liked his sister. Now that Helena said such words, Yang's heart must be very uncomfortable. Therefore, he hurriedly reminded Helena, because even if Helena didn't like him, they were still teammates. However, Xieyue was destined to return empty-handed this time, because this topic involved Lu Yuan, and Helena would not compromise. Brother, I am telling the truth. His strength is indeed very strong, so strong that it is unimaginable. Helena said indifferently. Sister, do you know him? From Helena's words, Xieyue heard something unusual. I know him, and I like him. Helena didn't hide it, and admitted it immediately. What? Hearing this, Xieyue couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, and Yang's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Sister, he is not a member of our martial soul palace. Xieyue hurriedly said. So what? Helena said with a hidden smile in her eyes. He is not a member of the martial soul palace. I hope you will still dare to say this in front of him when you know his true identity. Hearing Helena's words, Xieyue's expression froze, and then he looked at Yang, who was already burning with jealousy, and sighed slightly. He naturally supported Yang and Helena being together, but Helena didn't have a good impression of Yang at all. Even from a moment a few years ago, she directly alienated Yang and rarely stood with him. At that time, Xieyue didn't understand the reason, but now he understood. His sister had someone she liked, so she kept a distance from other men. He knew his sister very well. Although she looked very charming, she was actually a very chaste woman. Except for the person she liked, she would not get close to any man. He did not know how Lu Yuan had gotten to know his sister. How did he manage to steal his sister's heart without even knowing it? What happened with Helena was too far away, so Lu Yuan didn't know what they were talking about. At this moment, he was pointing in Helena's direction and asked Wang Qiu'er, who was beside him, Qiu'er, do you think that sister is beautiful? Yes, although that sister is not as beautiful as Sister Na and Sister Cher, she is also very beautiful. She is not inferior to Sister Zhu Qing and Sister Rongrong. Wang Qiu'er thought for a while and said in a sweet voice. Chapter 688. How about I kidnap her and make her your sister-in-law? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Ah, brother, are you going to find another sister-in-law for Qiu'er? But Qiu'er already has a few sisters-in-law. Wang Qiu'er opened her mouth slightly when she heard Lu Yuan's words. Her pinkish-blue eyes blinked as she looked at Lu Yuan in astonishment. Sister Na, Sister Cher, Sister Zhu Qing, and Sister Rongrong. That's already 4. I've also heard that there's a 5th sister-in-law that I haven't met yet. Brother, are you still looking for another one? It's not good to be greedy, Wang Qiu'er said coquettishly. But the more sisters-in-law I find, the more people will dote on me, right? Lu Yuan smiled. Yes. Wang Qiu'er was stunned when she heard this. Lu Yuan's words made sense. She had 4 sisters-in-law now, and all of them doted on her. If her brother found another sister-in-law, she would have another person to dote on her. Wang Qiu'er was a little hesitant. She didn't want her brother to be too greedy, but she also wanted another person to dote on her. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't take it anymore when she saw Wang Qiu'er's expression. She pinched Lu Yuan's waist viciously, and Lu Yuan grimaced in pain. Qiu'er is such an innocent girl. You're even tricking her. Are you even human? Zhu Zhuqing glared at Lu Yuan and said. How am I tricking Qiu'er? I'm not wrong, Lu Yuan shrugged and said innocently. Zhu Zhuqing ignored Lu Yuan and turned to Wang Qiu'er instead. She said, don't listen to your brother. He's tricking you. If he finds another sister-in-law, he'll have another person to dote on you. However, your brother will have another person to dote on him, and he'll have less care for you. Do you want another sister-in-law to dote on you, or do you want your brother to care for you more? Wang Qiu'er paused when she heard this. After that, she immediately replied, I don't want another sister-in-law to dote on me. I only want you to dote on me more. What a joke. In the eyes of someone with a brother complex, no amount of love from her sister-in-law could compare to Lu Yuan's words of concern and praise. Wang Qiu'er didn't even need to think before she chose the answer to this multiple-choice question. Elder brother, can you not bring that elder sister back? I already have enough sisters-in-law. Wang Qiu'er tugged at Lu Yuan's hand as she spoke coquettishly. Well. Lu Yuan stroked his chin with his right hand, looking hesitant. Then, he turned his head and glared at Zhu Zhuqing. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to bring Helena to his side. When the time came, he could say that he had pursued Helena, and that Helena had abandoned everything in the martial soul palace to follow him. When that happened, he could openly display his affection for Helena, and he wouldn't have to worry about his identity being exposed. Furthermore, he could further deepen the conflict between the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace. It was killing two birds with one stone. It was a pity that this little kitten, who had always had a tacit understanding with him, didn't seem to understand what he meant. Or perhaps she understood, but didn't want Helena to follow him? Lu Yuan speculated maliciously. After all, Helena had occupied Lu Yuan for a long time, and Zhu Zhuqing was left alone. It was inevitable that Zhu Zhuqing would feel uncomfortable. Abuchi, why are you staring at Zhuqing? Don't tell me you really want to find her. A soft voice sounded behind him. Lu Yuan turned around and saw Ning Rongrong looking at him pitifully with a pair of big sapphire-like eyes. It seemed that if Lu Yuan said he wanted to find her again, she would immediately cry. Rongrong, what are you doing here? Just take care of yourself. Why do you care if I find her or not? Lu Yuan said grumpily. Wow, if Zhuqing can take care of it, why can't I? I don't accept it. I have no human rights. Ning Rongrong said with a sad face. You know what you have done. Do you still want human rights? You are destined to be bullied by me for the rest of your life. Lu Yuan said with a chuckle as he reached out and pinched Ning Rongrong's face. Woo. Ning Rongrong couldn't help but whimper as Lu Yuan pinched her face. She pretended to be in pain, but there was a trace of a smile in her eyes. In fact, she didn't have much resistance to Lu Yuan finding her again. She was already satisfied that she could be promoted. She didn't want to care about what Lu Yuan wanted to do. She just thought that it was fun and wanted to get involved. Furthermore, she didn't mind Lu Yuan finding her again. Compared to that, it was better not to find her. Therefore, she spoke up. Wang Qiu'er panicked when she saw Lu Yuan pinching Ning Rongrong's face. She tugged at Lu Yuan's hand and said, Brother, you haven't answered Qiu'er's question. Lu Yuan opened his mouth. Just as he was about to speak, a group of people walked out from the side door of the Pope's palace. They were 12 red-robed bishops. They walked to the door and stood on both sides. There were 6 of them on each side. At the same time, the leader announced loudly, the Pope has arrived. All the Guardian Knights and the surrounding Soul Masters shouted in unison when they heard this. To these Soul Masters, or perhaps to most Soul Masters on the continent, the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace was their highest form of worship. The huge door opened. Bibidon walked out of the Pope's palace. She was wearing a bright golden dress and a purple gold pope's crown on her head. She was holding a golden scepter that was embedded with many gems. She had a solemn expression on her face. The red, blue, and gold gems on her bright golden dress shone brilliantly under the light of the rising sun. The purple gold pope on her head shone with a dazzling radiance. She was already beautiful, but right now, she exuded an unparalleled dignity. This was the dignity that belonged only to the Pope of the martial Soul Palace. She attracted everyone's attention the moment she appeared. At the same time, all the Soul Masters except for the Heaven Star Academy team and the Heaven Do Imperial Academy team knelt on one knee. "We pay our respects to the Pope." Loud shouts could be heard from all directions. Even Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and the others felt like prostrating themselves in worship. The only ones who weren't affected were Lu Yuan and Wang Qiu'er. Lu Yuan didn't need to be mentioned. He had seen a lot of the world. With his current arrogance, he wouldn't kneel to anyone except for his father, the fellows. Wang Qiu'er was an emperor beast. She was the emperor of all soul beasts. She was born to be worshipped. Naturally, she wouldn't kneel to anyone else. She didn't even kneel to Jiu Yuana, the ruler of all soul beasts. It was the same today. So beautiful. Lu Yuan was a little dazed as he looked at Bibidon in front of the Pope's palace. He couldn't help but murmur softly. Chapter 689. Abuchi. Seeing Lu Yuan unconsciously reveal his true feelings, Zhu Zhuqing, who had recovered from her daze, couldn't help but nudge him and call out softly. After being nudged by Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan recovered from his daze and looked at Zhu Zhuqing. He instantly understood what she wanted to say. Zhu Zhuqing's gaze meant to remind him not to forget what he had promised Chihiro Snow. Don't let your emotions get the better of you and make an unforgivable mistake. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan turned towards the spectator area not far away. Chihiro Snow's watery golden eyes were staring at him. As expected, Cher's heart is still worried about this matter. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. He smiled at Chihiro Snow and then turned around again. There were 5 people behind Bibidon. 2 of them were naturally the Chrysanthemum Douluo and the Ghost Douluo. The other 2 were the Sword Douluo and the Poison Douluo. The 5th person beside the Poison Douluo was Ning Fengji. Generally speaking, there were only 2 types of people who could follow Bibidon out of the Pontiff's palace. The first type was the titled Douluo. They were the role models who used their strength to prove themselves. Titled Douluo were the most powerful people on the continent. No matter where they went, they would have an extremely high status. They indeed had the qualifications to walk out of the Pontiff's palace with the Pontiff. The second type was the honorary elders of the martial Soul Palace. They were the people who had the so-called Pontiff's medallion. Ning Fengji was the one who had the Pontiff's medallion. The Sword Douluo's medallion was actually the sect leader of the 7 Treasures glazed sect, Ning Fengji. Lu Yuan's eyes didn't blink as he stared straight at Bibidon. He automatically ignored the others. Bibidon naturally noticed Lu Yuan's gaze, and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. His gaze landed directly on the Heavenly Star Squadron, or rather, on Lu Yuan. After all, it was her first time meeting Lu Yuan with a different identity. Bibidon didn't hide his gaze at all. He just looked at Lu Yuan, and there was a strong pressure in his gaze. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Was Bibidon testing him? And in front of so many people. His polychoria flickered slightly, and formless undulations spread out, dispelling the pressure in Bibidon's eyes. Lu Yuan's spiritual power was no weaker than that of a transcendent Douluo now, after breaking through to rank 65. Bibidon's gaze naturally had no effect on him. In fact, Lu Yuan, who had 6 soul rings, could dominate the continent on his own. He already had the ability to kill a titled Douluo. Even now, he dared to fight the Sword Douluo without using his god-slaying spear. Even if he couldn't defeat the Sword Douluo, he wouldn't lose too badly. After all, a 250,000-year soul ring was no joke. Outsiders might not have noticed the exchange between the 2 of them, but it couldn't be hidden from the titled Douluo. Immediately, the chrysanthemum Douluo, ghost Douluo, sword Douluo, and Douluo behind Bibidon were astonished. They all felt that Lu Yuan's abilities seemed to have improved a lot. You must be the famous hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall, Lu Yuan. You do have some elegance. Seeing that Lu Yuan was able to resist the pressure in his gaze, Bibidon was satisfied. He wore a faint smile on his face as he spoke. Once he said that all the soul masters present were astonished, including those who couldn't step into the arena. They could only watch from below the Pope's Mountain. None of them expected Lu Yuan to be the legendary hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall. The Dragon King Hall was a soul master organization that was second only to the martial soul palace in the entire continent. It was even stronger than the original three upper sects. Lu Yuan actually had such an identity. Tang San and the rest were undoubtedly the ones with the ugliest expressions. Tang San, the Grandmaster, Dai Mubai, and Yu Tianheng were all as black as the bottom of a pot. Although they knew that the Dragon Emperor Douluo was by Lu Yuan's side, they didn't know that he was the hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall. Immediately, a sinister look flashed across their eyes. This was because if they were to go against Lu Yuan, they would offend an even greater power. Yang's expression was also ugly. He was unhappy because of Hulena. No wonder Hulena didn't like him. It turned out that she liked the hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall. Lu Yuan didn't care about Bibidon exposing his identity. After all, his identity would be exposed sooner or later. It was already good enough that he could hide it until now. There wasn't much meaning in hiding it any longer. Your Holiness is too kind. Your Holiness is also a peerless beauty. You're devastatingly beautiful. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Bibidon's face turned slightly red. After that, it disappeared. Her beautiful eyes inadvertently glared at Lu Yuan. This stinking brat actually dared to tease her in front of so many people. Many of the soul cultivators around them had looks of disbelief on their faces. To openly flirt with the pontiff in front of so many people, that person's guts weren't ordinary. If Bibidon hadn't said that Lu Yuan was the hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall, many soul masters would have reprimanded Lu Yuan. However, after knowing that Lu Yuan was the hallmaster of the Dragon King Hall, none of these soul masters dared to speak up. After all, the Dragon King Hall had revealed that there were 4 titled Douluo. They couldn't afford to offend someone like that. They could only pretend that they didn't hear anything. Behind Bibidon, the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo exchanged a glance, and both of them could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. There seemed to be something off about the relationship between His Holiness and His Holiness. It seemed that they were a little too close. After following His Holiness for so long, they had never seen anyone who dared to tease His Holiness. The Holy Sun was the first person they had seen. Could it be that the Holy Sun and His Holiness had that kind of relationship? The chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo were both stunned. They suddenly felt as if they had discovered an incredible secret. Douluo was also stunned. After a brief moment, a smile appeared on his face. No wonder he was our hallmaster. He was really impressive. He even dared to tease the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace. However, what he found strange was that the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo were the Holy Son's lackeys. Under such circumstances, they didn't reprimand Lu Yuan. It didn't make sense. However, he didn't know that even if the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo had 10 times the guts, they wouldn't dare to reprimand Lu Yuan. He was their future boss. They would be tired of living if they dared to do that. Chapter 690. Abuchi is still as bold as ever. Ning Fengji sighed in his heart. Lu Yuan's guts are boundless. Not only did he dare to kill a prince of an empire, but he also dared to flirt with the Pope of the Martial Soul Palace. He's not afraid of the Martial Soul Palace at all. However, when he recalled that Lu Yuan had sent Long Xiaoyaro to barge into the Heaven Do Martial Soul Temple and beat up Sakas in front of everyone, Hu Yuhao understood. Long Xiaoyaro had a record. Since he dared to beat up a platinum bishop, it wasn't unreasonable for him to flirt with the Pope. However, Ning Fengji still felt a little weird even though he understood. After all, she was the Pope of the martial Soul Palace. She was the most respected woman in the world. However, according to Rongrong's news, she has successfully found her happiness. She has finally chased after Ibuchi. This is a good thing. In the past, Ibuchi controlled soul tools, and I always felt like my life was in his hands. If Ibuchi wanted to do anything to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, I wouldn't be able to resist him. It's great now. Ibuchi has become my son-in-law. I don't have to worry about this anymore. On the contrary, we have become a family because of Rongrong. With Ibuchi's help and power, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect can reach a higher level. We can't compare to the Dragon King Hall for sure. However, it shouldn't be a problem for us to surpass the Clear Sky sect. Rongrong is really capable. It seems like I have to find a chance to meet Ibuchi after this tournament. It's better to settle the matter between him and Rongrong first. Ning Fengji thought to himself. After glaring at Lu Yuan again, Bibidon swept her gaze across the three teams. She waved her scepter gently, and 3 streaks of light appeared in front of her and floated in mid-air. These 3 streaks of light were 3 soul bones. They were a skull bone, a right arm bone, and a left leg bone. The 3 skulls shone with light blue, dark green, and fiery red respectively. Once the 3 soul bones appeared, they shone brightly. Even the soul masters at the foot of the Pope's mountain could see them clearly. Immediately, the entire martial soul city was in an uproar. Apart from Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and a few others, the 3 teams on the competition's arena. Everyone's eyes were filled with desire. Take Tang San and Dai Mubai for example. The reason why they came here was firstly to seek revenge on Lu Yuan, and secondly, to obtain these soul bones. How could they not be agitated when they saw these soul bones? Bibidon glanced at the red-robed bishop beside her. Immediately, the red-robed bishop stepped forward. These 3 soul bones are the skull of wisdom, the windchaser's left leg, and the explosive burning right arm. These 3 soul bones are all from 10,000-year soul beasts. The skull of wisdom comes from a 50,000-year soul beast that was personally killed by the previous pope. It's a rare top-notch soul bone, second only to a 100,000-year soul bone and an external soul bone. After the red-robed bishop finished speaking, Bibidon continued, the soul bone is the reward for the champion. Only the champion is qualified to receive a soul bone. You are the top 3 in this competition. I hope you can give it your all and obtain this honor. The individual elimination round will be held this morning. The 3 teams will take turns to send people out. The winning team will be able to enter tomorrow's championship round, while the losing team will enter the losers group team competition in the afternoon to fight for another spot. Now, the competition can begin. His Holiness has ordered that the competition will begin immediately. The 3 teams, please enter the waiting area. The official duel will begin shortly. The red-robed bishop's voice rang out. Lu Yuan and the others entered the waiting area to prepare for the competition. At the entrance of the Pope's palace, the paladins had placed 6 gilded chairs. Bibidon sat in the middle, while the chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo sat on her right. On Bibidon's left, Douluo sat in the middle, followed by Ning Fengji and the sword Douluo. In terms of status, Ning Fengji, as the sect leader of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, was naturally more honorable than Douluo, who was a titled Douluo. However, Douluo was not only representing himself, but also the Dragon King Palace. Therefore, his status was higher than Ning Fengji's. Therefore, he was the one sitting in the middle with Bibidon, not Ning Fengji. Douluo was very pleased to be able to sit in the middle under everyone's watchful eyes. He was glad that he had decided to join the Dragon King Palace. If he hadn't joined the Dragon King Palace, he wouldn't have the prestige he had now. All of this was given to him by the Dragon King Palace. Douluo had always been very clear about this. Therefore, he had always been very responsible for the Dragon King Palace's matters. It seems like I can see the Palace Master's Majesty today. Douluo thought to himself as he looked at the waiting area not far away. In the waiting area, the 3 teams sat down in their respective seats. In the waiting area, the substitute members or teachers of their respective teams could accompany them, just like in the Heaven Do competition zone. Therefore, on Lu Yuan's side, Chihiro Snow and the rest came to the waiting area. Of course, Liu Erlong and Flender were also there. After these days, through Flender's efforts, Liu Erlong's relationship with him could at least return to how it was before, even if it wasn't very close. In the end, Liu Erlong had a conservative personality and was a loyal woman. Since she had a relationship with Flender, it was only a matter of time before they got together. Moreover, during these days, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing had also advised Liu Erlong, using the words Lu Yuan had instructed. After a few rounds of persuasion, Liu Erlong more or less listened. She also understood that it was already impossible for her to be together with Yu Xiaogang. The only reason she was still in a deadlock was because she couldn't let go of him. However, as long as Flender worked hard enough, it was only a matter of time. But today, Liu Erlong's expression was a little strange. This was because she had discovered a person who had abandoned her for more than 20 years. It was the so-called Master Yu Xiaogang. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang was in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. He had also discovered Liu Erlong and even exchanged a glance with her. However, he didn't linger and directly looked away without the slightest longing. Seeing this scene, Liu Erlong's heart couldn't help but twitch. Chapter 691. Seeing that Yu Xiaogang didn't have the slightest bit of longing and directly shifted his gaze away, Liu Erlong's heart skipped a beat. Her entire body couldn't help but sway a little, and her pretty face turned pale. "Sister Erlong, are you okay?" Seeing this scene, Flender immediately supported Liu Erlong with a worried look on his face. "Xiaogang, he's so cruel. He's not even willing to look at me for a second longer. I've waited for him for 20 years. I've waited for him for more than 20 years. Not only did he not give me an explanation, but now he's not even willing to look at me for a second longer," Liu Erlong said emotionally as tears fell from her eyes. She really didn't expect Yu Xiaogang to be so cruel. He wasn't even willing to look at her for a second longer. Were they strangers? No, they were people who had almost become husband and wife in the past. Moreover, she had waited for him for more than 20 years. How could he be like this? Liu Erlong's heart violently twitched. She had clearly sensed Yu Xiaogang's gaze just now. There really wasn't the slightest bit of reluctance. It was as if he was looking at someone he didn't know. Liu Erlong's heart was in disbelief. How could Yu Xiaogang become like this? "Don't cry, Sister Erlong. I'm still here. I'll always be by your side," Flender hurriedly said. He held Liu Erlong's shoulder and gently patted her back. "Boss Flender." Liu Erlong's eyes were dripping with tears as she leaned on Flender's shoulder. After having sex with Flender, no matter how much Liu Erlong loved Yu Xiaogang in her heart, Flender still had his own place in her heart. Women were like this. They would always have different feelings for the first person who occupied their body. Not to mention a woman as loyal as Liu Erlong. There was no need to talk about it. Therefore, when Liu Erlong was hurt by Yu Xiaogang's actions, the first person she wanted to rely on was Flender. What an adulterous couple. Sluts. Within the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team, Yu Xiaogang once again cast his gaze towards the Heavenly Star Academy's team. When he saw Liu Erlong leaning on Liu Erlong's shoulder, he clenched his fists so hard that the veins on his arms popped out. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and his eyes blazed with fury as he cursed under his breath. In his opinion, he could abandon Liu Erlong and not see her for more than 20 years, but Liu Erlong could never find another man. Otherwise, she would be a slut. He had completely forgotten that a woman had waited for him for 20 years. How much suffering had she gone through? How much contempt had she endured? He only knew that Liu Erlong could only wait for him, Yu Xiaogang. She could not seek her own happiness. This was what Yu Xiaogang thought. Otherwise, if he really loved Liu Erlong and wanted Liu Erlong to be happy, the best thing to do was not to run away, but to let Liu Erlong find another person who loved and cared for her when he knew that it was impossible between the two of them. To put it bluntly, Yu Xiaogang did not want to take responsibility. He did not want to accept the blame of the world, but he also wanted to tie Liu Erlong down. He made it sound nice that he did not want to be with Liu Erlong because he was afraid that she would be despised and looked down upon by the world. But in reality, Liu Erlong had been despised and looked down upon by the world. That was nothing more than an excuse that he, Yu Xiaogang, was using to escape. Looks like the competition hasn't even started, but the show has already begun. Hearing Liu Erlong's sobbing behind him and seeing Yu Xiaogang's ferocious expression as if he wanted to eat someone, how could Lu Yuan not know what had happened? He hadn't made any arrangements yet, but Yu Xiaogang had actually discovered the relationship between Liu Erlong and Freund. He was even angered half to death. This was a bit interesting. Liu Erlong and Bibidon were different. Bibidon was high and mighty. In her relationship with Yu Xiaogang, the leader had always been Bibidon. But in the love between Liu Erlong and Yu Xiaogang, the leader had always been Yu Xiaogang. From a certain point of view, Liu Erlong's suffering was no less than Bibidon's. It could be said that Yu Xiaogang had indirectly or directly hurt two extremely outstanding women. For a mere rank 29 soul grandmaster like him to be able to do this, Lu Yuan felt that it was a bit inconceivable. If not for Yu Xiaogang's soul power being too low and his appearance not being outstanding, he would even suspect that Yu Xiaogang was the previous child of destiny. To be honest, apart from his low soul power and being a trash, Yu Xiaogang wasn't much different from the so-called main character template. The show is about to start. What show is it? Ning Rongrong couldn't help but ask. It's nothing. Rongrong, do you still remember that grandmaster? Lu Yuan asked as he pointed at Yu Xiaogang not far away. I remember. Isn't he the person who abandoned Dean Liu Erlong more than 20 years ago? I didn't know at that time, but now I realize that is actually such a thing. This person isn't worthy of being a man at all. He doesn't have any sense of responsibility. He's not like you, Abuchi. You're very responsible. Apart from being a bit of a playboy, everything else about you is fine. Ning Rongrong leaned on Lu Yuan's shoulder and said in a tender voice. He really isn't worthy of being a man. Lu Yuan smiled slightly and said in his heart, so, he's already not a man. Lu Yuan was still clapping his hands and praising Ma Xiaotao's roasting of the chicken. This move was really wonderful to the extreme. Yu Xiaogang didn't have any attachment to Liu Erlong and moved his gaze away. He didn't even look at Liu Erlong's well-developed figure. Wasn't this very normal? He was now a eunuch and didn't have any reaction at all. How could he be interested in Liu Erlong? He didn't like women right now. As for whether he liked men or not, Lu Yuan wasn't too clear. He really isn't worthy of being a man. This kind of person should be castrated. Ning Rongrong stretched out her hand and made a gesture in the air. Her tone was so cold that Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. The little witch was still the little witch. Even if she restrained herself and was as obedient as a lamb in front of him, her personality still hadn't changed. Enough, a girl shouldn't say such things. Lu Yuan pinched Ning Rongrong's cheeks and said softly, "Oh, okay." Ning Rongrong nodded obediently and quietly leaned on Lu Yuan's shoulder. Not long after, the red-robed bishop's voice rang out again. The individual elimination round will now begin. Now, let's invite the Heavenly Star team and the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team members to send up their members. Captain, it's up to you. Everyone giggled. They all knew that they were here to have fun and that Lu Yuan would be the one to take care of all the matches today. All they needed to do was to be a spectator and cheer them on when they had nothing to do. That was all. Okay, then I'm going. Lu Yuan patted the heads of the two little beauties beside him and smiled at Chihiro Snow behind him. He walked towards the arena with his hands behind his back. Chapter 692. Lu Yuan's footsteps were light and slow, neither fast nor slow. His long black hair matched with the Heavenly Star Academy's silver-white uniform. Even with such a simple combination, he was still shockingly handsome. Lu Yuan had only walked a short distance from the waiting area to the stage, but he had already attracted the attention of almost all the women in the audience, including Bibidon, Hulena, and even everyone except for the crying Liu Erlong. His identity as the Dragon King Palace's palace master was already enough to shock everyone. Coupled with his extremely good looks and refined temperament, it was actually quite difficult for him to not attract the attention of others. Lu Yuan walked up to the circular stage. There was no one in front of him, or rather, the moment he stood up, the contestant from the Heaven Do Imperial Academy was already frozen in place. No one would have thought that Lu Yuan, the captain of the Heavenly Star Academy's team and one of the strongest people in this tournament, would actually appear in the first round of the individual elimination round. Hulena blinked her beautiful eyes as she looked at Lu Yuan on the stage, a trace of doubt in her eyes. Why is junior brother the first to appear? Does he want to sweep both of our teams? Others might not be clear about Lu Yuan's strength, but she was very clear about it. He was absolutely invincible. Coupled with the information that her teacher had revealed, Lu Yuan had obviously obtained his 6th soul ring and become a soul emperor. His strength had definitely increased. As long as he stood there alone, he would be able to sweep away all of them. Junior brother, you have to at least give senior sister a chance to perform. Hulena pouted her small mouth. Although Lu Yuan was present in this tournament and she had never thought of winning, she still wanted to display her strength. The individual elimination round was undoubtedly the best stage to display one's strength. However, if she were to meet Lu Yuan at the beginning, then what was the point of showing off? She might not even be able to take 3 moves from him. Secretly thinking, Hulena looked at Lu Yuan with bitter eyes. She knew that this junior brother of hers would definitely notice her gaze. Facing Hulena's gaze, Lu Yuan smiled in his heart and winked at her. He knew exactly what Hulena was thinking, but since he was the first to go up, he naturally had his own plans. Hall Master Lu Yuan is actually the first to go up. Is he planning to make a strong opening statement? On the throne in front of the Pope's palace, Bibidon smiled faintly as he looked at Lu Yuan in the arena. He then turned around and asked Douluo beside him. Opening speech? That's not it. My Hall Master is probably too lazy to play and wants to end the competition quickly. Douluo glanced over and said indifferently. So, Elder Douluo, do you mean to say that your palace lord alone can sweep through 2 teams? Isn't that a little too arrogant? Bibidon asked indifferently. One couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry from his tone. Haha, His Holiness doesn't know how strong my palace lord is. How about this, let's make a bet. Douluo said. What bet? Bibidon asked. Douluo pointed at the gilded chair beneath him and said, Our bet is that if my palace lord can sweep through 2 teams by himself, His Holiness will have to take out another soul bone as a reward for the competition. Oh, what if your palace lord can't sweep through these 2 teams? Bibidon continued asking. Haha, if my palace lord can't sweep through these 2 teams, I'll give this chair to, ahum. Before Douluo could finish speaking, Ning Fengji suddenly coughed twice, interrupting Douluo's words. Elder Douluo, this chair is made of pure gold. It's not like the previous one, so. Ning Fengji reminded him in a friendly manner. Douluo was stunned when he heard this. His old face froze for a moment before he quickly recovered. He said, if my palace lord can't sweep through these 2 teams, I'm willing to take out 5 longevity pills as a reward for the competition. Oh, is that so? I thought Elder Douluo was going to eat this chair on the spot. Bibidong said with a faint smile. You're joking, His Holiness. I'm a cultured person. How can I do something like eating a chair, right? Douluo said with a righteous look on his face. Haha, is that so? Bibidon chuckled and didn't pursue the matter. Ning Fengji facepalmed. If he hadn't seen Douluo gnawing on the chair with his own eyes, he would have believed Douluo. But then again, Douluo was a man of his word. He didn't go back on his word just because he was a titled Douluo. Ning Fengji admired him for that. In theory, Abuchi can sweep through them without a problem. But I keep getting the feeling that Abuchi wants to stir up trouble. Elder Douluo was tricked last time. If you continue to speak nonsense, you'll be tricked again. I just don't know what Abuchi is planning. Ning Fengji looked at Lu Yuan with a sharp glint in his eyes. Heaven Do Imperial Academy's contestants, please hurry up and get on the stage. The red-robed bishop urged when he saw that the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's contestants had yet to get on the stage. Go, Graphite. Tang San's voice rang out. Boss. Graphite looked at Yu Tianheng. Go ahead. Yu Tianheng nodded and said. Hearing this, Graphite clenched his fists tightly and walked towards the ring. Teacher, why do you think Lu Yuan is the first to go up? Tang San looked at the Grandmaster beside him and asked softly. I don't know what he's thinking at the moment. Does he want to eliminate all of us by himself? That's impossible. No matter how strong he is, after so many matches, his soul power will be completely exhausted. He might even be defeated before you guys go up. Yu Xiaogang said. Teacher thinks that's impossible. But maybe Lu Yuan is thinking like that. Teacher, you know how arrogant he is. Tang San said indifferently. You're right. Lu Yuan has been arrogant since he was young. Now, his arrogance is boundless. Mph. I'm afraid he's looking for trouble this time. Yu Xiaogang curled his lips. Let's let Graphite exhaust his soul power first. We'll do the same later. Let Millstone, Oaso, and the others go up first. We'll go up later. With the Martial Soul Palace's team helping us exhaust his soul power, I don't believe he can last long. Tang San said. That's right. He's courting death. Dai Mubai clenched his fists. When he thought about how they might have a chance to defeat Lu Yuan before he ran out of soul power, his eyes flashed with delight. You seem to be afraid of me. On the stage, Lu Yuan looked at Graphite in front of him. Chapter 693. You seem to be very afraid of me. In the ring, Lu Yuan looked at Shamo standing in front of him and asked faintly. Graphite was a familiar face. He was one of the people Lu Yuan had beaten up before. Back in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, Graphite and his younger brother, Stone Mill, had fought against Tang Wulin alone. In the end, they had been easily defeated. Stone Mill's martial soul was the Black Tortoise, a top-tier martial soul that was not inferior to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. Its defensive capabilities were extremely strong, and it was considered one of the top martial souls in the current era. However, as long as a martial soul had encountered Lu Yuan, it would be like encountering a nightmare. Back then, the two brothers' dual defenses had been torn apart like tofu by Lu Yuan's iron fists. He was the first person to break through their defenses. From that moment onwards, Lu Yuan had left a deep scar in their hearts. Although he wasn't like Yu Tianheng, who had been beaten to a pulp by Lu Yuan, Graphite still felt a lingering fear in his heart when he met Lu Yuan again. He didn't have the courage to fight against Lu Yuan. I'm not afraid of you. Graphite clenched his fists, and his legs trembled. Without facing Lu Yuan personally, he couldn't imagine how terrifying and oppressive his aura was. Tang Wulin simply stood there, doing nothing. Just the aura he emitted made Graphite feel as if he couldn't breathe. Strong. He was ridiculously strong. When Tang San had boasted that he could defeat Lu Yuan in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's battle team, Graphite had believed him. Tang San's second martial soul's soul-ring ratio was astonishing. However, looking at Lu Yuan now, he felt that Lu Yuan's aura was many times stronger than Tang San's. After all, how could someone who had been easily defeated by Lu Yuan be able to catch up so easily? If Tang Wulin was really that strong, he wouldn't have lost so miserably. He suspected that Tang San only said those words to stabilize their morale. After all, everyone from the Heaven Do Imperial Academy had lost to Lu Yuan. To them, Lu Yuan was a taboo. If Tang San hadn't said that, they probably wouldn't have the mood to fight with Lu Yuan. Whether it was the Shi brothers, Oaso, or Imperial Wind, they were all the same. You're not afraid of me? But why are your legs trembling? Why is your face so pale? Why is your forehead dripping with cold sweat? There's nothing shameful about being afraid of me. If you don't believe me, take a look at your former captain, Yu Tianheng. See if he's afraid when he's standing in front of me. Lu Yuan said calmly. His voice spread throughout the entire arena. Creak. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Yu Tianheng immediately clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Lu Yuan, don't spout nonsense. I'm not afraid of you. Yu Tianheng growled in a low voice. Not afraid of me? Ah, fine. Then you can come up later. Dai Mubai and Tang San can follow behind you. I want to see if the three of you have the guts to stand in front of me. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Yu Tianheng's expression changed. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingernails dug into his flesh. He wanted to agree immediately, but when he thought of Lu Yuan destroying the arena, he hesitated. He was still afraid. He was afraid that he would be completely defeated like he was in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. When Tang San and Dai Mubai heard this, their expressions changed as well. Their eyes were filled with anger, and their expressions were savage. They looked like they wanted to swallow Lu Yuan whole. But so what? When they thought of Lu Yuan's strength, none of them dared to stand in front of Lu Yuan so early. Their plan was to exhaust Lu Yuan's soul power before going up on stage to defeat Lu Yuan. Therefore, even though it was very painful, they still didn't agree. Little San, Tianheng, Mubai, this is Lu Yuan's provocation. Don't fall for it. With his current strength, none of you are a match for him in a one-on-one fight. Only if you team up will you have a chance to defeat him. Therefore, you must not be anxious. If you go up on stage now and get injured by him, it will be troublesome in the group finals tomorrow. Seeing that the three of them were angered, Yu Xiaogang hurriedly advised them. Teacher, we know. Tang San took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He was a very patient person. His personality was incomparably cautious, just like a mandala snake hiding in the depths of the grass. Although Lu Yuan's words had angered him, he wouldn't lose his mind and directly go up on stage to fight. TSK, cowardly rats are cowardly rats. You don't even have the courage to go up on stage. You're not bad. Lu Yuan first ridiculed Tang San and the others, then turned his gaze to Graphite. Seeing that you still have some courage to face me, I'll give you a chance to make a move. Looking at Graphite, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Then I'll have to offend you. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Graphite mustered up his courage. Since he was going to lose anyway, he might as well make a move. That way, even if he lost, at least it would be a glorious defeat. Black tortoise, possess. Graphite growled, and a hexagonal black tortoise shell began to grow from his body, wrapping around his entire body. Suddenly, Graphite's entire body seemed to grow thicker. His 4 soul rings, yellow, and purple, slightly rippled beneath his body. Lu Yuan, take this. Graphite growled, and his 1st, 3rd, and 4th soul rings lit up at the same time. His first move was a 100-year soul skill and 2,000-year soul skills. He didn't even think about winning, he just wanted to display his full strength. First soul skill, Black Tortoise Guard. 3rd soul skill, Black Tortoise Roar. 4th soul skill, Black Water Shock. The huge shadow of the Xuanwu tortoise roared and rushed in Lu Yuan's direction. Behind the shadow of the Xuanwu tortoise, there was a blue frozen stream. The black tortoise was the northern divine beast of the 5 divine beasts. It controlled the power of the water element. If this was a true black tortoise, then it would definitely be an existence that controlled the ultimate water. However, the black tortoise wasn't a black tortoise. It could only be said that it possessed the bloodline of a black tortoise. Even so, controlling water wasn't difficult for a black tortoise. It looks okay, but it's still far from enough for me. Seeing the enormous black tortoise image rushing towards him and the freezing stream behind it, Lu Yuan didn't care at all. Taking a light step forward, Lu Yuan raised his hand. With a light slap, he smashed the roaring black tortoise image into pieces. Then, without stopping, he smashed the frozen blue stream behind it. Taking a light step forward, Lu Yuan arrived in front of Graphite in an instant. Before he could react, a lustrous, jade-like palm gently pressed against his chest. Chapter 694. Pa. A soft sound rang out, and the black tortoiseshell that enveloped Graphite's body exploded and flew in all directions. At the same time, Graphite's body flew backwards, and blood spurted from his mouth. It was clear that he had been severely injured. Bang! Graphite's body crashed into the bottom of the stage. The huge impact caused him to spurt out another mouthful of blood, and he fainted. Yi Lingling, quickly come and treat Graphite's injuries. Tang San's expression immediately changed when he saw that Shamu had been severely injured by Lu Yuan with just a light slap. He hurriedly shouted. Don't misunderstand, he wasn't concerned about Graphite. He was just worried that Graphite's injuries were too severe, and would affect the team competition. After all, they couldn't be missing from the team competition. Hearing his call, Yi Lingling quickly ran forward. Her nine-hearted begonia martial soul appeared in her hand, and a dense white light enveloped Graphite's body. Graphite's injuries weren't light. Although Lu Yuan had only given him a light slap, that slap had broken 8 or 9 of Graphite's ribs. Many of his internal organs had been injured, and that was why he was vomiting blood. Lu Yuan's strength had already reached an inhuman level of 160,000 kilograms. His strength had originally been around 150,000 kilograms, but after absorbing his 6th soul ring, it had increased by another 40,000 kilograms, reaching 160,000 kilograms. What did 160,000 kilograms mean? This meant that Lu Yuan didn't even need to use any soul skills. He could rely on his pure strength to fight an ordinary titled Douluo. Once he used his martial soul, soulbone, and polychoria, he wouldn't be inferior to a rank 95 transcendent Douluo without using the Godslayer spear. Once he used the Godslayer spear, apart from a rank 98 titled Douluo who might be able to put up a fight, all other transcendent Douluo were basically dead. He was that strong. It could be said that Lu Yuan had really taken off. He didn't need anyone's protection anymore. If it wasn't for the fact that the God-slaying spear consumed too much energy, even the current Lu Yuan would only be able to release 2 spears at most. Then, he would really be able to run amok in the world. Sometimes, Lu Yuan was really looking forward to becoming a titled Douluo. This was because once he became a titled Douluo, Lu Yuan's clear aura scripture would reach the 9th level. The 9th level of the clear aura scripture would definitely be very terrifying. At the 9th level of the clear chi scripture, one's zhenqi was endless and limitless. This was not like Tang San's mysterious heaven technique, which was just an exaggerated embellishment. This was truly endless. At that time, even if it was the God-slaying spear, Lu Yuan could play with it however he wanted. A God-slaying spear without any restrictions. That kind of power was truly something that one yearned for just thinking about it. Below the stage, Yi Lingling was treating Shitu's injuries. Although Shitu's injuries were serious, it wasn't a big problem for Yi Lingling. The nine-hearted begonia was a terrifying support-type martial soul. It specialized in healing. In terms of rank, it could be compared to the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. It was even superior to the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Once the nine-hearted begonia was cultivated to its 9th ring, it could even revive someone. If the 9 treasures glazed pagoda was the best at increasing one's strength, then the nine-hearted begonia was the best at healing. Neither side was better than the other. The reason why Lu Yuan was biased towards the 9 treasures glazed pagoda was because he had the secret word of he. Hence, he wasn't afraid of getting hurt at all. Furthermore, he liked the feeling of his strength increasing tremendously with the help of the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. However, in reality, if it was someone else, they might not be as biased towards the 9 treasures glazed pagoda as Lu Yuan. Under the treatment of the nine-hearted begonia, Shitu quickly recovered. In just a short while, he had completely recovered. However, Yi Lingling seemed to have expended a lot of soul power. After all, although Shitu's injuries could be healed, it consumed a lot of soul power. Seeing that Shitu had recovered, Tang San and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. Shitu was one of their team's main fighting strength. He was crucial to their victory in the final round. They couldn't let anything happen to him. Now that Shitu had recovered, the competition naturally continued. This time, it was a student from the Martial Soul Palace. This student's martial soul was the blazing lion. He was a rank 48 soul ancestor and was around 24 years old. Although he wasn't part of the golden generation, he could still be considered a top-notch genius. Furthermore, he was at rank 48. His soul power wasn't low. However, to Lu Yuan, it was still a matter of one slap. With his current strength, if he still needed 2 slaps to deal with a soul ancestor, it would be a waste of his physique that had been tempered countless times. After defeating the Blazing Lion Soul Master from the Martial Soul Palace, it was Stone Mill's turn. He was a Xuanwu Turtle Soul Master and also Stone Mill's younger brother. The two of them were twins. They looked the same, their martial souls were the same, their ranks were the same, and even their soul skills were the same. It was still a slap. Like his older brother, Stone Mill vomited blood and fainted from the slap. Naturally, Yi Lingling was in charge of healing him. Time quickly passed by. Lu Yuan had already defeated 6 students in a row. No matter what kind of attack they launched or what kind of strategy they used, they were greeted with a slap that sent them flying. The Martial Soul Palace's students were better off. After all, they were from the same faction. Although they vomited blood, their injuries weren't serious. They could be healed with just a little treatment from a healing soul master. On the other hand, the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's students were all heavily injured. Not a single one of them didn't have broken ribs or damaged internal organs. Even with the miraculous effects of the 9-heart begonia, such injuries were still difficult to treat. Yi Lingling's face was already very pale after treating 3 people. This was the result of overexertion. Not good. Seeing Yi Lingling's appearance, Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but cry out in alarm. His face instantly turned ugly. "What's wrong, teacher?" Tang San couldn't help but ask. Yu Xiaogang didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he raised his hand and said, "Please wait." "What's the matter?" The red-robed bishop looked at Bibidon. After a slight nod, he turned to Yu Xiaogang and asked loudly, "Our Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team voluntarily forfeited the individual elimination round in the morning and entered the losers bracket in the afternoon." Yu Xiaogang said indifferently, "Grandmaster, why are you doing this?" Dai Mubai couldn't help but ask. Yu Tianheng's eyes were also filled with doubt. Tang San, on the other hand, thought carefully after hearing Yu Xiaogang's words. His eyes flashed as if he understood something. "I'll explain it to you later," Yu Xiaogang said softly. After hearing Yu Xiaogang's words, the red-robed bishop looked at Bibidon. Bibidon first looked at Yu Xiaogang, then at Lu Yuan. A trace of light flashed through his eyes as he said indifferently, "Approve." Chapter 695. It was a simple word, but he didn't even bother to ask for the reason. The current Bibidon was different from the Bibidon of the past. If it was before, she would have definitely asked Yu Xiaogang for the reason. But now, Yu Xiaogang's figure was no longer the most important person in her heart. It was the only disciple in the world who understood her and loved her, Lu Yuan. Furthermore, she only needed to look at Lu Yuan to know why Yu Xiaogang admitted defeat. Yu Xiaogang didn't want to admit defeat, but he had no choice. Because someone wanted him to admit defeat, he had to enter the losers bracket in the afternoon. Otherwise, Heaven Do Imperial Academy would be completely annihilated. "So Abuchi wants to make his move today? But it doesn't matter, I've already prepared everything." Bibidon thought to himself. Approved. Hearing this word, Yu Xiaogang let out a sigh of relief. He led Tang San and the others out of the waiting area and back to the resting area. Since they'd admitted defeat, the remaining spot was naturally up to the Heavenly Star Academy and the Martial Soul Palace Academy to fight for. So after Heaven Do Imperial Academy admitted defeat, the Martial Soul Palace's 4th contestant immediately stepped onto the stage. But at this moment, everyone's attention wasn't on the stage, but on the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. Speaking of which, why did that Yu Xiaogang admit defeat? On the side of the Heavenly Star Academy, Ning Rongrong asked with some puzzlement. Yu Xiaogang's admission of defeat was too sudden. With her small brain, she couldn't think of a reason. Hearing this, The remaining members of the battle team looked at each other. They were also very puzzled. Chihiro Snow's eyes flickered. She was the one who understood Lu Yuan the most. Moreover, from the course of the match, she could already see something. However, she didn't say anything. Instead, she looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked, "Zhu Qing, what do you think?" Zhu Zhuqing was silent for a moment before saying, "It should have something to do with Ibuchi. He probably thinks that he has seen through Ibuchi's motive. Self-belief." Ning Rongrong was a little puzzled. What did he mean? Hearing this, Chihiro Snow smiled faintly and said, as expected of Zhu Qing, "You know Ibuchi quite well." What Yu Xiaogang said to have realized was actually what Ibuchi wanted him to see. Ning Rongrong? So, what are you talking about? I don't understand a single word. Ning Rongrong said frantically. For the first time, she felt that she was so stupid. Why couldn't she understand what Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing were talking about? Sister Rongrong, Chioa doesn't understand what they're talking about either. Wang Chioa pouted. She had a pure personality, and what Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing had said almost made her dizzy. Her mind was still a mess. After hearing Wang Chioa's words, Ning Rongrong heaved a sigh of relief. She thought that she was stupid, and that was why she didn't understand. Now, it seemed like that wasn't the case. The two people in front of her and Ibuchi's intelligence were too high. She couldn't blame them. As she thought of this, Ning Rongrong felt a lot better. "Master, why did you admit defeat just now?" Dai Mubai's voice rang out as soon as he returned to the resting area. He wanted to properly torture Lu Yuan. Furthermore, didn't they agree to first exhaust Lu Yuan's soul force before defeating him in one fell swoop? Dai Mubai was extremely unwilling to admit defeat and lose the chance to defeat Lu Yuan. Similarly, Yu Tianheng felt the same way. "I admit defeat. Naturally, I have my reasons. Look at Yi Lingling's appearance," Yu Xiaogang lightly said. Yi Lingling. The three of them shifted their gazes and saw that Yi Lingling's face was pale. She looked like she had exhausted a lot of her soul power. "She's fine. It's just that she's exhausted too much soul power. She can fully recover after 3 to 4 hours of rest," Dai Mubai said. "That's right. She can fully recover after 3 to 4 hours of rest. However, if we don't admit defeat and continue the competition, you guys will be the ones to fight. Do you think you're any better than the Shi brothers? Let's not talk about Xiao San for now. Both of you will be seriously injured. When that happens, Yi Lingling's soul power will be exhausted, and she can't fight. Who else can heal you?" the master asked plainly. When he said this, Yu Tianheng and Dai Mubai were shocked. A layer of cold sweat appeared on their backs. "Uncle, do you mean that Lu Yuan did this on purpose?" Yu Tianheng asked. "That's right." The master nodded and said, "Our initial plan was to exhaust Lu Yuan's soul power and defeat him in one fell swoop. However, it's clear that we underestimated Lu Yuan. With the strength he's displayed, I'm afraid that he can really defeat 2 teams by himself. Furthermore, we're not the only ones who want to exhaust Lu Yuan's soul power. He's also planning to exhaust our soul power. However, he wants to exhaust Yi Lingling's soul power. Once Yi Lingling's soul power is exhausted, no one will heal you. All of you will be seriously injured. How can you participate in the losers group finals in the afternoon? Even if Yi Lingling's soul power recovers 3 to 4 hours later and she heals your injuries again, all of you will have recovered. However, Yi Lingling's soul power will be exhausted again. Without Yi Lingling, will you still have support-type soul masters to help you? What's more, will you still be able to use a 7-person fusion skill? Will you still be able to defeat the Martial Soul Palaces team in this state? Furthermore, I'm more worried that Lu Yuan will cripple you because of the grudges between you. If that's the case, even the 9-hearted begonia won't be able to heal you. Therefore, it's better to admit defeat now. Since you're going to lose anyway, you might as well preserve your strength and enter the losers group finals. The Martial Soul Palaces team represents the face of the Martial Soul Palace. They definitely won't admit defeat. Therefore, They'll definitely be seriously injured in Lu Yuan's hands. Even if the Martial Soul Palace has a healing-type Soul Master, they definitely can't compare to the Nine-Hearted Begonia. Even if they're healed, the Martial Soul Palace's team members will still be injured. If that's the case, defeating them will be much easier. We can even leave the 7-person fusion skill behind to deal with Lu Yuan. Isn't this killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Yu Xiaogang said with a smile. Grandmaster, you're indeed smart. After listening to Yu Xiaogang's analysis, Dai Mubai and Yu Tianheng couldn't help but reveal looks of admiration. As expected of a grandmaster, he's really amazing. Chapter 696. Yu Xiaogang smiled faintly as he listened to Dai Mubai and Yu Tianheng's flattery. He clasped his hands behind his back and acted like an expert. Lu Yuan's idea is indeed brilliant. Once you guys go on stage, you'll definitely be heavily injured. In such a situation, either Yi Lingling doesn't heal you guys, and the 3 of you will be heavily injured. Our Heaven Do Imperial Academy team will lose 3 important battle prowess, or Yi Lingling will heal you guys after she recovers, and will lose the support of the Nine-Hearted Begonia. No matter which one it is, as long as we lose them, it'll be extremely difficult for us to win the group competition. He might even hold back on purpose and not severely injure the golden generation of the Martial Soul Palace team. This will allow them to preserve their strength while eliminating us. After all, without Yi Lingling, we won't have any support. It'll be extremely difficult for us to defeat the powerful Martial Soul Palace team. Even if we win, all of us will be heavily injured. We'll need Yi Lingling to heal us. Yi Lingling is already exhausted, so how will she be able to heal everyone? Even if she recovers overnight and doesn't sleep to heal you guys, she'll definitely collapse again. Without Yi Lingling, you won't have the 7-character fusion technique. If you guys go up against the powerful Heaven Star team and Lu Yuan, you'll definitely lose. So, in summary, if we continue the competition, we'll have no chance of winning this competition. But if we withdraw now, it'll only be beneficial. Now, you guys should understand why I'm doing this, right? Yu Xiaogang said softly. I get it now. This Lu Yuan is really scheming. He wants to play us to our deaths. Dai Mubai smacked his hands together with a furious look on his face. Indeed. He even deliberately mocked us at the beginning. I think he wanted to provoke us into going up the stage and seize the opportunity to severely injure us. That way, we would lose Yi Lingling's support and completely lose the entire match, Yu Tianheng said as he came to a realization. That's right. However, no matter how scheming Lu Yuan is, he won't be able to hide it from my eyes. If we withdraw from this battle, we'll be able to reap the benefits. At that time, Martial Soul Palace's members will be injured, and defeating them will be a piece of cake. On the other hand, we'll be able to keep the 7-player fusion technique. With the might of the 7-player fusion technique, defeating Lu Yuan won't be difficult. Yu Xiaogang said with a faint smile. Teacher's move is indeed ingenious. I believe that Lu Yuan must be feeling very uncomfortable right now, Tang San said with a smile. Hehe, of course. Maybe he's in a hurry to curse. Dai Mubai chuckled, his face full of smiles. Isn't that so? Although Lu Yuan has some thoughts, compared to a theoretical master like Uncle, he is still too inexperienced. Yu Tianheng said. Hearing this, the master smiled faintly and didn't say anything. However, a hint of pride flashed through his eyes. Lu Yuan, oh Lu Yuan, although your talent is high, in terms of intelligence, I, Yu Xiaogang, am the number 1. Now, I want to see if you will be heavy-handed towards the students of Martial Soul Palace. If you are heavy-handed, then you will be helping me. If you don't want to be heavy-handed, then you will be looking for trouble. After all, the golden generation of Martial Soul Palace has some strength. In the end, you will still have to injure them. Even if they aren't heavily injured, they will still be at a disadvantage against us who aren't injured at all. No matter what you do, the one who benefits in the end will still be me. Oh Lu Yuan, you want to fight with me, Yu Xiaogang? You still have a long way to go. Yu Xiaogang secretly said in his heart. Next. With a casual slap, Lu Yuan sent a Martial Soul Palace student flying. 4 out of the 7 from Martial Soul Palace had been defeated. Only the 3 from the Golden Generation were left. Fight, fight, fight. When dogs bite each other, a mouthful of fur will be left. Yu Xiaogang secretly said in his heart. Lu Yuan's gaze was indifferent as he glanced at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy students in the resting area not far away. He paused for a moment at Yu Xiaogang's position before quickly retracting his gaze. Thinking back to Yu Xiaogang's proud expression, the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up. A trace of mockery appeared in his eyes. This so-called master is probably still proud of me for seeing through his scheme. Maybe he's even thinking of reaping the benefits of the fisherman's quarrel. Interesting. Just wait and see. In a while, you'll know what cruelty is. Evil Moon, let me fight this round. A trace of anger flashed across Yang's eyes when he saw his own student being sent flying again. Then be careful. Evil Moon's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness as he spoke softly. No matter who the opponent was, he could easily disperse all attacks with a single slap and send them flying while vomiting blood. Evil Moon was ashamed of his inferiority. More importantly, Lu Yuan had yet to release his martial soul. If he released his martial soul, how strong would he be? Evil Moon didn't dare to imagine. With such strength and good looks, it was no wonder that his sister liked him. However, Evil Moon really didn't know when his sister met Lu Yuan. His sister rarely left Martial Spirit City, so when did she get involved with the Dragon King Palace Master? Don't worry, I will defeat him. Yang replied after hearing Evil Moon's words. Arrogant and ignorant. It's good enough that you can guarantee that you can walk down the stage standing. That will depend on his mood, Hu Liana said indifferently. Sister. Evil Moon couldn't help but scold softly. His sister's words were too much. Her attitude towards Yang was quite bad. His sister was usually very polite. Why did she become like this today? Is it all because of this Lu Yuan? Evil Moon thought to himself. As soon as Hulena finished speaking, Yang's eyes were burning with flames. He naturally didn't dare to talk back to Hulena. In fact, the current level 62 Hulena was much stronger than him and Evil Moon. His gaze was fixed on Lu Yuan. It was all because of this guy that he was alienated by Hulena. This time, he would definitely beat Lu Yuan to the ground and let Hulena know that this guy wasn't worthy of her. Only he, Yang, was a good match for her. It had to be said that when a man was jealous, he would always habitually ignore the gap between himself and the other party. It was one of the 3 biggest illusions in life. I can do it, but you really can't. Anyone with a discerning eye knew that Yang was no match for Lu Yuan at all, including Evil Moon. The only one who didn't understand was probably Yang himself. Chapter 697. You must be Lu Yuan. You don't look like much. In the arena, Yang looked at Lu Yuan and said indifferently, Oh, no matter how much I'm not, I'm still much better than a trash like you. Looking at the hostility in Yang's eyes, how could Lu Yuan not know that it must be because Hulena had done something that made Yang jealous of him? He even wanted to teach him a lesson in the arena. Since Yang had such thoughts, Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't have any good attitude towards him. Moreover, there was a person who always thought about his girlfriend. To be honest, Lu Yuan actually wanted to beat him up for a long time. She was his girlfriend. How could a mere Yang like him have designs on her? Moreover, he dared to show hostility towards him. He must be tired of living. He didn't care about the golden generation. He didn't care about Yang's talent at all. Even the son of fortune, Tang San, could be bullied by him, let alone Yang. Everyone can talk big, but it depends on how much ability you have. I will let Nana know that you are not worthy of her. Only I am worthy of her. Yang's eyes were burning with flames as he said in a deep voice. Is Nana someone you can call? Hearing Yang's words, Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes. If it was Evil Moon or Bibidon calling Hulena Nana, it would be fine. After all, one of them was Hulena's brother and the other was Hulena's teacher. But who do you think you are, Yang? Are you worthy of being called so intimately? What can you do if I call her that? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Yang said in a serious tone. Oh, what can I do? This is the first time someone dares to ask such a question in front of me. Nothing, I can still cripple you. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Cripple me? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Yang laughed as if he had heard something funny. After laughing for a while, Yang looked at Lu Yuan with contempt and said, You think you are worthy? I'll let you know if I'm worthy or not, Lu Yuan said softly, his tone cold and low. This was the first time he had seen someone who was so good at courting death. Even Tang San and the others didn't court death in front of him. Yang was the first person who dared to ask him whether he was worthy or not. Your Holiness, if I cripple this guy in front of me, it shouldn't be a violation of the competition's rules. Lu Yuan looked at Bibidon and asked with a chuckle. As long as you don't kill him and he doesn't surrender, crippling him isn't a violation of the rules. However, he is still a member of the Martial Soul Palace. Hall Master Lu, don't be too reckless. Bibidon's words were a reminder to Lu Yuan that he could teach Yang a lesson, but he shouldn't really cripple him. After all, there weren't many geniuses like Yang even in the Martial Soul Palace. Haha, then I can't care so much because I'm not in a good mood right now. Lu Yuan laughed. As soon as these words came out, all the Soul Masters present felt a chill in their hearts. The Dragon King Palace's Hall Master actually didn't give the Pope any face in public. In addition, this Hall Master Lu had previously flirted with the Pope and completely disregarded the Pope's dignity. Could it be that the relationship between the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace was really that bad? Haha, this is great. It would be best if Lu Yuan crippled Yang, then the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace would be in a complete mess. Tang San chuckled. Regardless of whether it was the Martial Soul Palace or the Dragon King Palace, they were destined to be his enemies. After all, he already knew what had happened in the past from Tang Hao. The Martial Soul Palace had killed his parents and caused his mother to be sacrificed. Lu Yuan's subordinate, Long Xiaoyao, had injured Tang Hao and forced him to fight the Sky Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape. In the end, he had died at the hands of the two soul beasts. He would definitely take revenge for these two things. He was a member of the Tang sect. The Tang sect's members didn't have many good points, but holding grudges was definitely one of their most outstanding points. This was a fine tradition that he, Tang San, had inherited. That's true. Lu Yuan's Dragon King Palace is indeed powerful. Although it can't compare to the Martial Soul Palace, it's not that far off. If they really do fight, then both sides will definitely suffer losses. This is a good thing for the Sionra Empire. Furthermore, my brother has already been crippled by Lu Yuan. As long as I can successfully return this time, the position of Star Luo Crown Prince will be mine. When the time comes, I can borrow the strength of the entire Sionra Empire to deal with the weakened Dragon King Palace. I will definitely take back what Lu Yuan owes me. As for that bitch Zhu Zhuqing, I will definitely play her to death. I will play her to death in front of Lu Yuan. Dai Mubai's eyes flashed with a trace of blood as he spoke. Hearing this, Yu Tianheng smiled faintly as a trace of darkness flashed in his eyes. On the other hand, Yu Xiaogong's expression was as usual, as if he didn't hear Dai Mubai's words at all. It was as if he had acquiesced to what Dai Mubai was about to do. Yang is going to be miserable this time, Hulena sighed and said softly in the Martial Soul Palace's waiting area. That Lu Yuan won't really cripple Yang, right? After all, Yang is the golden generation of our Martial Soul Palace, Evil Moon asked in disbelief. If he says so, then he will definitely do it. Why would Yang provoke him for no reason? He is a person who can be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. Moreover, under normal circumstances, he will not target anyone except his own enemies. However, if someone dares to provoke him, then something big will happen. Hulena said faintly. There was no doubt that she knew Lu Yuan's character very well. When his temper flared up, he was truly lawless. Other than Chihiro Snow and her teacher, almost no one could control him. He was really capable of crippling Yang on the spot. Moreover, Yang was courting death. Lu Yuan was the martial Soul Palace's holy son. His position was only below the Pope and above the various elders. Not to mention other things, just the fact that Yang had offended the Holy Son was enough for Lu Yuan to kill him on the spot, and no one in the martial Soul Palace would dare to say a single word. The hierarchy was orderly and strict. This was the rule of the martial Soul Palace. Offending the Holy Son was a capital offense. Although Yang didn't know Lu Yuan's identity and could be said to be innocent because he didn't know, if he really wanted to pursue the matter, Lu Yuan could still punish Yang. It was like an ordinary person offending the emperor. Even if he didn't know the emperor's identity at the time, he still committed a serious crime. Because what was done, and the facts were already there. It was not impossible to pursue the matter. Why did Yang provoke him? Sister, you have to ask yourself. If you didn't say that you liked Lu Yuan, would Yang provoke him? You know that Yang likes you, Evil Moon said. It's just wishful thinking on Yang's part. I've already rejected him many times, but he still won't change. Besides, it's my freedom to like whomever I like. Do I need to report it to Yang? Hu Liena said indifferently. It is indeed your freedom to like whomever you like, but Yang is still infatuated with you. Are you just going to watch him get crippled? Evil Moon questioned. Then what can I do? I can't do anything. He is on the field, and I am off the field. I can't help him. Besides, even if I can help, if I help Yang, Lu Yuan will definitely be angry with me. He is very generous in other aspects, but he is very stingy when it comes to relationships. Hu Liena spread her hands and said helplessly. Chapter 698. It was not like she had never seen Lu Yuan jealous. When they went to the life relic, because she was wearing a mask and her figure was too good, she attracted a lot of attention. At that time, Lu Yuan was jealous and directly used his aura to scare those people away. And now, Yang, who was in love with her unrequited, dared to take the initiative to provoke Lu Yuan, her real boyfriend. It was impossible for Lu Yuan not to have some thoughts in his heart. If she spoke up to help Yang at this time and asked Lu Yuan to be merciful, it would be strange if Lu Yuan was not jealous. After all, she was helping another man in front of her real boyfriend. If she did this, what would her real boyfriend think? She was not giving her man face. What's more, with Lu Yuan's personality, she suspected that if she really did this, Lu Yuan would not sleep with her for at least 3 months. For Hu Liena, who wanted to stick with Lu Yuan every day, this was simply unbearable torture. Moreover, for Hu Liena, who regarded Lu Yuan as more important than her own life, Yang's provocation made Hu Liena very angry in her heart. Hu Liena was the kind of person who would rather be scolded by others than let others slander Lu Yuan. Alas, what should we do? Are we just going to watch Yang be crippled? Evil Moon sighed softly. The friendship between him and Yang was still very deep. Sister, the reason why Yang did this is because your words provoked him. If you didn't say that he was overconfident and arrogant, he might not have provoked Lu Yuan so directly. Evil Moon said. Who asked him to speak arrogantly? He offended my sweetheart. Can't I refute him? What's more, I'm telling the truth. Hu Liena said. That's true, but after all, Yang has been your classmate and friend for more than 10 years. We have known each other since childhood. Can you bear to see him being crippled? Evil Moon asked. Hearing this, Hu Liena was silent for a moment. She was very kind-hearted. Although this matter was provoked by Yang, after all, it was because of her. Secondly, after more than 10 years of friendship, she could not bear to see Yang being crippled. Looking at Hu Liena's appearance, Evil Moon said softly, Sister, you'd better plead for mercy. Since you and Lu Yuan like each other, even if he is angry for a moment, as long as you explain it well afterward, I think he can still understand. After all, you are not interested in Yang, but in consideration of your friendship with him. Hu Liena and hesitated for a moment. I can't destroy my relationship with Lu Yuan because of him. Only in this way can I explain it clearly to Lu. Up to you. Evil Moon sighed. In this case, it was good enough to let Yang get rid of his fate of being crippled. Since his sister did not like him, it was okay to cut off their relationship. Moreover, It was Yang's fault. Helena nodded. Her red lips opened slightly, and a faint voice came out of her mouth and passed into Lu Yuan's ears. Secret sound transmission was a means that soul masters who had reached a certain level could master. Hearing Helena's words, Lu Yuan was slightly stunned, and then shook his head with a faint smile. He did not expect Helena to think so much about pleading for mercy. But Helena underestimated him a little. Was he really so stingy? No one knew better than him that Helena did not like Yang. Moreover, the existence of the yearning heartbroken red had already let him know that Helena's love for him was absolutely pure, without the slightest impurity. So it was impossible to say that he was jealous. He was angry because Yang did not have any sense of propriety and dared to call Helena Nana. Of course, the more important thing was that Yang dared to provoke him. If Helena had pleaded for mercy, he would have naturally held back for her sake. After all, she had some friendship with Yang. However, when he thought of Helena saying that she would cut off all relations with Yang from today onwards and told him not to think too much, Lu Yuan could not help but smile. Because Helena said that because she cared about him. This girl's feelings for him were still very deep. Consider yourself lucky, Lu Yuan muttered in his heart as he looked at Yang across from him. Since he could not cripple him, he would just beat him up. Since he dared to provoke him, he had to pay a price. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Lu Yuan looked at Yang and said plainly, "Do it. I'll give you a chance to attack. Otherwise, the battle will be over if I attack." Arrogant. Yang let out a loud cry when he heard Lu Yuan's words. Hot flames began to emit from his body. The clothes on Yang's upper body instantly shattered. His muscles swelled like granite. His entire body instantly swelled to over 3 meters. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, and black soul rings rippled beneath his body. Yang's martial soul was the fiery lord. This martial soul had both fire and earth elements. Extreme heat, strong attack, and strong defense. These were the abilities of a top-tier martial soul like the fiery lord. Yang's first and second soul rings suddenly lit up. While fiery red flames emerged from his body, they also greatly increased his defense. Fire-type attacks and earth-type defense allowed him to both attack and defend. It was indeed easy to gain an advantage against people of the same rank. However, this was only for ordinary people. It was useless against Lu Yuan. Take this. Yang clenched his fist and pounced towards Lu Yuan. Yang was already more than 3 meters tall after using his martial soul's possession and soul skills. He looked rather intimidating as he pounced over. Pa! Yang's fist came crashing down, but it was gently blocked by a white and tender palm. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't take even half a step forward. That's it. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He flipped his palm and grabbed Yang's wrist. He slammed it down. Boom. Yang's body collided with the stage, and the immense force from the collision destroyed both of Yang's defensive soul skills. Blood flowed from Yang's mouth. Boom. Lu Yuan's wrist moved again, and Yang's body slammed heavily onto the ground once more. Faint cracks appeared on the surface of the arena. The arena had been refined this time. Even a soul sage would find it difficult to damage it. However, Lu Yuan only swung his hand twice, and the arena was damaged again. Similarly, Yang's situation was even more serious when the arena was damaged. In just 2 hits, his mouth and nose were already full of blood, and his insides were burning in his chest. "You can't even take a beating," Lu Yuan said plainly. He swung his palm and kicked Yang's body out of the arena. There was a loud sound, and Yang's body sank into the stairs of the pontiff's palace not far away. He immediately fainted. Chapter 699. It was just a kick, but Yang's body was sent flying. He hit the stairs outside the Pope's palace with a loud bang. Yang's body sank into the stairs, and he fainted. Yang's martial soul, the Flame Overlord, was actually very strong. Its defense was also unusually high. However, the one who attacked him was Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's strength was around 160,000 kilograms. No matter how strong Yang's defense was, it was nothing in his hands. In fact, Lu Yuan was already very merciful. After all, it was Helena who had spoken. He naturally had to give her some face. He could treat everyone as nothing, but he was willing to take a step back when it came to the people he loved. Furthermore, Rao Yang was not a big deal. However, although he was not crippled, Yang's injuries were not light. Since he said he would beat him up, he naturally had to. Otherwise, he would not be able to think clearly. After all, if anyone dared to challenge his authority, he would not be able to survive. Lu Yuan did not care about his friends and companions. After all, they were on his side. However, what was Yang? The martial Soul Palace did not lack geniuses. Furthermore, there were many people with Yang's talent in the Dragon King Palace. Even Fu Qinsheng, Ling Wei, and the others were comparable to Yang. Yang's soul power was higher than theirs only because he was older. Fu Qinsheng and the others were only 18 or 19 years old. However, Yang was 1 year older than Evil Moon and 3 years older than Helena. He was already 22 years old. Rank 53 at 22 years old. When Fu Qinsheng and the others were 22 years old, they would be able to reach that height. Wang Qiu'er and Ning Rongrong were even worse. Wang Qiu'er reached rank 48 at 13 years old. She could become a Soul King at 14. Ning Rongrong reached rank 46 at 14 years old. She could become a Soul King at 16 at most. Zhu Zhuqing was even worse. She was already rank 52. Which one of them was not stronger than Yang? What, did you say they took drugs? Cheats? Please, luck was also a kind of strength. They had drugs to take and strength to cheat. If you were not convinced, you could go look for drugs. In this world, the most important thing was the result. There were not many people who cared about the process. This was not a math exam where they would be graded according to the steps. Next. Patting his sleeves, Lu Yuan's indifferent voice rang out. Yang was defeated so easily. There was a look of astonishment in Evil Moon's eyes. Although he knew that Yang wasn't a match for Lu Yuan, he shouldn't be like this. He couldn't fight back at all, and he didn't even have the chance to release his soul skill before he was killed. One must know that Yang's strength was only slightly weaker than his. Brother, do you know how powerful he is now? Yang is really the first person I've ever met who dared to provoke him in front of his face and even dared to ask him if he was worthy. He's really courting death with his strength. If I hadn't pleaded for leniency, Yang would have ended up in a horrible state. Helena sighed and said softly, "Alas, it's not unreasonable for you to like him, but sister, you are the disciple of the Pope, and he is the Lord of the Dragon King Palace. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you two to be together." Evil Moon said, "Brother, you don't have to worry about this. You'd better get ready to fight." Helena said, "Will I end up in the same situation as Yang?" Looking at Yang's miserable appearance and recalling Lu Yuan's violent appearance when he directly grabbed Yang's wrist and threw him to the ground, Evil Moon's heart still had some lingering fear. "No, you're my brother. He won't hit you hard, and is not an unreasonable person. You have no enmity with him. He won't seriously injure you for no reason." Helena said. "That's good." Evil Moon breathed a sigh of relief. After tidying up his clothes, Evil Moon walked in the direction of the arena. "This is the second last student of the Martial Soul Palace. Teacher, you're right. Lu Yuan is really strong. He almost defeated him by himself." Tang San's eyes were full of solemnity when he thought of how Yang, a Soul King, was defeated in just 2 moves. He had paid enough attention to Lu Yuan, but the strength that Lu Yuan showed was far beyond his expectations. He's really strong, but we have the 7-person fusion technique. We don't have to be afraid of him. Yu Xiaogang was also shocked by Lu Yuan's strength, but he was still full of confidence in the 7-person fusion technique that he had developed. He had no other advantages, but his only advantage was his confidence. He was blindly confident in his own research. Yes. Hearing the master's words, Tang San nodded. Besides the 7-person fusion technique, they still had other strengths that they hadn't used. Even if they faced Lu Yuan, they might not necessarily lose. "You're Lu Yuan?" Standing in front of Lu Yuan, Evil Moon looked at him carefully and asked softly, "Hello, I'm Lu Yuan." "You must be Evil Moon," Lu Yuan replied. "You don't look like someone who is blindly arrogant. You still have some manners." Hearing Lu Yuan's greeting, Evil Moon's face showed a trace of surprise and he asked with a chuckle, "Whether I'm arrogant or not depends on who I'm facing. If someone deserves my respect, then I naturally won't be arrogant. As for those who are not strong enough and like to jump around, I naturally won't care about them. It's best to kill them with a slap," Lu Yuan said lightly. "What you said makes some sense." Evil Moon nodded and said, "But in your eyes, am I that kind of person with strength?" Evil Moon asked as soon as he finished speaking. "Well, about this, I can only say that you have a good sister." Lu Yuan tapped his chin with his finger and said softly, "Ah." Hearing this, Evil Moon was stunned for a moment and said with a wry smile, "You're quite straightforward." Lu Yuan's words were undoubtedly saying that he was so polite to him because he was Helena's brother and had no intention of hiding it. He also didn't hypocritically say that they hit it off at first sight. The reason was so simple. Therefore, Evil Moon said that Lu Yuan was straightforward. "My character has always been like this," Lu Yuan said. "I know that I'm not your opponent, but as the vice-captain of the Martial Soul Palace Academy team and a member of the Golden Generation, I will definitely do my best to fight with you." Evil Moon looked at Lu Yuan and said firmly, "That's for the best. Go ahead and let me see your full strength." Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Okay," Evil Moon said softly. The soul power in his body began to surge rapidly. With a flip of his palm, 2 blood blades appeared in his hands. At the same time, a strong aura began to emanate from his body. 5 soul rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, and black rose from his body. Chapter 700. Just like its name, Evil Moon's crescent blades were 2 blood-red curved blades that resembled crescent moons. His hands were in the middle of the crescent blades. As he swung his hands gently, the bright red tips of the crescent blades flickered with a dazzling cold light. In terms of grade, Evil Moon's crescent blades were naturally top-notch martial souls. Although they weren't as good as the 7 Kills sword, which was known as the world's #1 offensive weapon, or the Clear Sky Hammer, which was known as the world's #1 martial soul, its power couldn't be underestimated. In the current Golden Generation, Helena naturally left the other 2 far behind. This was because she had too many opportunities. The Life Spirit Crystal, the Yearning Heartbroken Red, the Illusory Skull, the 1000-kilogram and Emperor's Torso Bone, and the Foxtail External Soul Bone that she obtained by chance. In addition to her rank 62 soul power and the superb 9-tailed celestial fox martial soul, even Tang San, who was now an evil soul master, might not be able to defeat Helena in a one-on-one fight. Furthermore, if Tang San's purple demon eyes hadn't restrained Helena's charm to a certain extent, Helena would have been able to hang him up and give him a good beating. For example, Chihiro Snow now had rank 68 soul power. If he were to fight Tang San, he would definitely be able to pin Tang San to the ground. In the original book, Tang San could barely defeat Chihiro Snow because he had the 100,000-year soul bone that Xiao Wu sacrificed, the blue-silver emperor's right leg bone, 2 domains, and Chihiro Snow's carelessness and underestimation of his opponent. That was why he was able to win by a fluke. Right now, Tang San didn't have a 100,000-year soul ring or a soul bone apart from cultivating the Clear Sky Hammer. It was extremely difficult for him to defeat Chen Runxue, who was already using a cheat. Helena was naturally not as good as Chihiro Snow. However, if she were to fight Tang San recklessly, Tang San would not be able to win. This was because Helena still possessed the esoteric secret character. This esoteric secret character was too heaven-defying. Even if Helena had only comprehended a small portion of it, as long as she was not seriously injured, she would be able to recover in an instant. The reason why Lu Yuan was certain that Martial Soul Palace was no match for Heaven Do Imperial Academy was because of the 7-character fusion technique. This technique could summon the Martial Soul Palace's Haotian body. One strike from this technique wasn't something that Helena could block. She might even be heavily injured. Since Helena's comprehension of the esoteric character wasn't high enough, it would be very difficult for her to recover quickly. Therefore, if Tang San's team were to encounter Martial Soul Palace's team, it was very likely that they would lose. Of course, whether or not they could meet each other was another question. Let's look at the Golden Generation. In the Golden Generation, Helena was naturally the strongest. The one below Helena was Evil Moon. Evil Moon was stronger than Yang. Yang's talent wasn't bad, but there was still a gap between him and Evil Moon. This could be seen from the fact that Evil Moon was younger than Yang by a year, but was still one rank higher than him. Furthermore, Evil Moon was someone who had created his own soul skill. In this day and age, those who could create their own soul skills were all true geniuses. For example, Feng Xiaotian and Evil Moon were both well-known figures in the younger generation. Of course, if the two were to be compared, Evil Moon was naturally stronger than Feng Xiaotian. Evil Moon's aura was not bad. It was much stronger than the average Soul King. However, to Lu Yuan, it wasn't much of a threat. Make your move. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Then I'll have to offend you. Evil Moon muttered. His third soul ring suddenly lit up. The moonblade in his hand drew a strange trajectory, and a huge blood-colored moonblade slashed towards Lu Yuan. Evil Moon didn't even try to test Lu Yuan. He used his 1,000-year third soul skill right away. This was because he knew that a 100-year soul skill was useless against Lu Yuan. It was just a waste of time and soul power. The corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the huge crescent blade that was coming at him. He stretched out his right hand, and his slender fingers looked so smooth and translucent under the light, as white as jade. This was something that could only be achieved by someone who had tempered their body to a certain extent. His body was as white as jade, and he wasn't afraid of blades or swords. He was also impervious to fire and water. This was the realm that Lu Yuan reached after experiencing the holy flame tempering on the 9th step of the celestial stairway. The temperature of the 9th step of the holy angel flame exceeded that of ultimate fire. Although it brought unimaginable pain and torture to Lu Yuan, at the same time, Lu Yuan also benefited a lot. Boom! Facing the huge moonblade, Lu Yuan stretched out his middle finger and flicked it gently. Suddenly, the huge moonblade collapsed into energy and dissipated in the air. Seeing Lu Yuan slowly retract his finger, Evil Moon's eyes were filled with shock. His body of flesh and blood didn't resist at all. With just a light flick of his finger, his third soul skill was shattered. The difference in strength was simply immeasurable. This is a battle of two completely different dimensions. In front of the Pope's palace, Douluo Bo had a smug smile on his face as he watched Lu Yuan's performance. He looked at Bibidon and asked, "Your Holiness, do you still think that our Hall Master can't defeat all of them? Our Hall Master's strength is definitely far beyond the younger generation. He's not something that these brats can hope to reach. It seems that Your Holiness has to make a lot of preparations to take out a soul bone. Elder Douluo, it's a little early to say that. Hall Master Lu is indeed a rare young talent. However, the outcome is still unknown until the last moment." Bibidon said plainly. "Then let's wait and see." Douluo Bo laughed softly. His face was full of confidence. He felt that Lu Yuan's final victory was 100% certain. There wouldn't be any accidents at all. "Come again. Let me see all of your abilities. As her brother, you can't possibly only have a few tricks up your sleeve." Looking at Evil Moon, Lu Yuan flicked his finger and said plainly, "All right, then you'd better take it." As Evil Moon spoke, his fifth soul ring lit up. He waved his right hand horizontally, and a thin blood-red line appeared in midair. Compared to the huge moonblade from before, this attack seemed ordinary. However, Lu Yuan's eyes unexpectedly carried a hint of interest. This kind of attack is a little more interesting. Sometimes, no matter how big the momentum is, it's just an empty shell to scare people. However, these ordinary attacks are extremely powerful. This move of yours condenses the saber chi into a thin line. Due to the extreme condensation, the attack power has been greatly increased. There are very few soul masters of the same level who can take this move of yours and not be injured. One sword to break all laws doesn't just apply to swords. The same concept can be applied to you. You can try to pursue the realm of sword chi condensed into threads. Of course, it might be saber chi condensed into threads for you. Lu Yuan chuckled and extended another finger. Chapter 701. A jade-like finger exuded a bright luster under the sun. Lu Yuan's mind moved, and a blue light appeared on his finger, facing the blood-red thin line that was attacking him. Pa. Like the sound of a thin rope breaking, Evil Moon's fifth soul skill, which was extremely offensive, collapsed in an instant. Compared to the previous scene of the huge moonblade collapsing, the scene in front of him seemed much smaller, but the shock it brought was even greater, especially for Evil Moon. This was the fifth soul skill produced by a 10,000-year soul ring, and its offensive power was extremely powerful. He even relied on this move to break through the defense of a soul emperor. Its power was amazing, but in the hands of Lu Yuan, it completely collapsed with just a finger. What is this? Looking at the blue light on Lu Yuan's finger, Evil Moon instinctively felt that it was not simple, and his intuition told him that this thing was very important to him. This is intent. Looking at Evil Moon's puzzled look, Lu Yuan said softly, "Intent." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Evil Moon was a little puzzled. He had never heard of this thing. The so-called intent is the artistic conception, which is a realm that can be reached after the comprehension of a certain weapon or fist technique has reached a certain level. I use spear intent. The artistic conception is invisible, but its power is great. Those who comprehend the artistic conception can have a great advantage over those of the same rank, and can even fight those of a higher rank. Your moonblade is very good, but it's still at the stage of technique. Generally speaking, the realms are mainly divided into 5 major realms: technique, power, intent, soul, and spirit. I often use spears, so I comprehend spear intent. The sword Douluo of the 7 treasures glazed sect uses swords, so he comprehends sword intent. If you are lucky enough to set foot in this realm, then you will comprehend saber intent. Saber intent. Evil Moon murmured softly, thinking for a while. He had never heard anyone talk about these things, nor did he know that there was such a thing as artistic conception. Therefore, he had never delved into it. However, what Lu Yuan said today had opened his eyes to a brand new path. If he could continue on this path, Evil Moon would definitely grow rapidly. I want to ask, our Martial Soul Palace Academy is the best academy on the continent, with the best teaching facilities and teachers, but why have I never heard of the artistic conception you mentioned? Evil Moon asked. It's very simple, because there are very few people who can comprehend it. There are less than 10 people on the continent who can comprehend the artistic conception, even fewer than the number of titled Douluo. Many people don't even know about it. How can they teach you when they don't know it? For example, the famous master Yu Xiaogang. You can ask him if he understands these things. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and glanced at Yu Xiaogang, who was in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's resting area. There's no need to ask, he definitely doesn't understand. I heard that he's only at rank 29. He doesn't have a tool soul, and he doesn't have any strength. It's impossible for him to comprehend the artistic conception just by studying the theory, Evil Moon immediately said after hearing Lu Yuan's words. Yu Xiaogang's expression suddenly stiffened. Although he didn't understand, Evil Moon had said it out loud in front of so many people. Anger immediately rose in his heart. But he didn't understand it, so he could only hold it in no matter how angry he was. Yes, he doesn't even understand the artistic conception, yet he calls himself a master. TSK, interesting. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. When Lu Yuan finished speaking, the master's face became even uglier. Teacher, don't be angry. It's not worth it to be angry with him. Tang San comforted Yu Xiaogang, but his eyes were filled with fear. Yu Xiaogang didn't know what the artistic conception was, but he knew. Although he didn't comprehend the artistic conception, he had heard of its great name. Those who comprehended the artistic conception were basically invincible within the same rank. They could even fight above their rank. He originally thought that Lu Yuan was strong enough, but he didn't expect him to have comprehended spear intent. Now, the worry in his heart became even heavier. What followed was anger. Why was Lu Yuan so strong? He cultivated twin martial souls, but he was still far inferior to Lu Yuan. Why was the heavens so unfair? Although his heart was violently churning, Tang San didn't show it on his face. He even comforted the master. This ability to endure was indeed very powerful. After being comforted by Tang San, Yu Xiaogang felt a lot more comfortable in his heart. He sat in the lounge with a straight face and didn't say a word. After casually ridiculing Yu Xiaogang, Lu Yuan's gaze turned to Evil Moon. I heard that you also have a self-created soul skill called Full Moon. Show it to me. It will let you understand the power and mystery of the artistic conception. It will be good for your future. Why are you helping me? Evil Moon's face was filled with doubt. Lu Yuan obviously wanted to guide him, but the two sides had different standpoints and were even somewhat hostile. Wasn't Lu Yuan helping his enemy by guiding him? Didn't I say it before? You have a good younger sister. Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Is it because of Nana? Evil Moon whispered. Stinky junior brother, at least you have some conscience. Seeing that Lu Yuan was going to guide Evil Moon to comprehend the artistic conception, Helena's lips curled up slightly. She couldn't help but show a happy smile on her face. Lu Yuan did this for her sake. Otherwise, she knew Lu Yuan's personality. He was not the kind of person who liked to guide others. Make your move. Lu Yuan's voice sounded. Okay, please. Hearing this, Evil Moon's eyes narrowed. With such a good opportunity, he naturally wouldn't miss it. Evil Moon's body spun quickly. In an instant, the two moon blades and his body disappeared almost at the same time. They were replaced by a huge white disc. As soon as the disc appeared, the surroundings were quiet. There wasn't even a trace of friction or the sound of wind. It seemed that all the sounds had been swallowed by the white disc. Full Moon, a self-created soul skill that was said to be flawless. Lu Yuan smiled faintly as he looked at the white disc that was coming towards him. He gently pointed his index finger, and in an instant, it was as if stars had appeared in the sky. Lu Yuan's finger blossomed with a brilliant silver light. The silver light was exceptionally dazzling, and the sunlight at the edge of the arena was instantly covered by the brilliant silver light. Dang! Lu Yuan's index finger fell directly on the center of the white disc. The rapidly spinning white disc with a great cutting force did not cause any damage to Lu Yuan's finger. Instead, it directly collapsed under Lu Yuan's gentle finger. The white disc collapsed, and Evil Moon's figure suddenly appeared. The two moon blades were knocked away and stuck upside down in the arena not far away. There was a trace of blood at the corner of Evil Moon's mouth. Obviously, he was injured by the finger just now. I lost. Evil Moon sighed softly. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.